Hey, Camille.
Mm-hmm.
What do I have from you?
I sent in a photo because rather than a scan, because I ended up
That's fine.
putting it,
That's
I soaked it last night and everything.
okay, so now it's nice and tight, right?
Uh-huh.
I love it when it does that.
Yeah.
It's like real flat and tight like that. You know. Yeah. Yeah, okay, good. Okay, so what I basically want to do is, it's kind of what I'm doing with every class right now, except for one. Because you guys are, now should be really starting the process. So I just want to go over anything that you guys are having trouble with. Hey, Camille.
Yes.
How did you transfer it?
So I tried it with the Prismacolor pencil, and because the watercolor paper is so textured, it didn't transfer as I had hoped it would. So I just kind of redrew the whole thing. Yeah, well, yeah, you're right.
And then did you rub it down?
Yeah, I did. And then I just kind of redrew it from the original as best I could on the watercolor paper.
So you kind of just pulled it out from the transfer, right?
Yes.
Okay, and it matters like what kind of surface you put the paper down on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you noticed in that video when I transferred it, I said I'm going to try it right on the block. The block was too soft.
Okay.
So then I put, and watercolor paper has enough thickness to it where if I just put it on a table by itself, it's usually fine. But if I was going to transfer to like Bristol board or something like that, I've done that in class where I transfer it, like a thin piece of paper on hard wood or whatever. And then I don't really like the way it transfers. I might put a sheet or two underneath it. Right?
Okay.
But your transfer looks nice. You kept that looseness in it.
Okay. I'm glad that it turned out okay.
You understand now why I like that technique?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's the only way I can find to keep my stuff loose like that. Well, I mean, I can light table it too, but God, I'm so stoked my internet came up. Okay, now remember this. I was thinking about this. Watercolor is regulated by the amount of water you put, or what amount of color you put down on the paper, and amount, how diluted that is. Correct?
Yes.
So that dog, you can start to tint them, but you probably want to keep them, visually reading as white, so you have a lot of contrast there, right?
Okay, yes.
Because what people make the mistake and do with this is they go, oh, you can put some gouache on at the end or whatever, and they go, oh, I'll just paint all this whole white area white later because I screwed it up, and that doesn't work. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So then if you start getting too big of areas with gouache in this, then there's a point where it's like, well, you should have just done a gouache painting because it's not, you're going to kind of negate the translucency of everything. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're going to start putting these big opaque areas everywhere, and like small areas and stuff, it's totally fine. But when you're trying to save like too big an area with gouache, it just doesn't tend to work that great.
Yes.
Okay, so any questions about it?
Not quite yet. I guess actually the first question is just once you do the ochre wash over the whole thing, do you go in and make all the shadow areas a darker shade of ochre, or it's just the same? No. Okay.
I just kiss the whole thing with that and then let it dry, and that's it.
Okay.
It's not for anything other than, like I said, to warm up areas where I leave it white. So it's not just bright white. It'll read as white, but it'll have a little warmth to it. And I know that. And like if there's, like, if there's, it's just, I do the same thing. I think I've said this with almost any media. With acrylic or oil, I usually put down orange. And then anywhere I leave that, that's a little different, but anywhere I leave that part of the canvas untouched, that little warmth pops through, right?
Mm-hmm.
And here it's a little different because you're not really going to notice it as much. I'm just doing it so I don't have to go in and warm up the light all over the place every time I leave white somewhere.
Okay.
And then it's so minuscule on there that it doesn't, like, if I put blue over it, it doesn't start going green because there's just so little of it.
Right.
like in that video, you know, I start putting sky in afterwards. If I had too much of that ochre in there, that sky would all start going green. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But like on
Yes.
the other end, let me find this real quick.
Also, while you're doing that, you got the color studies I sent you. Did you have anything else to say about it?
Yeah, I'll pull them up. Hang on.
Okay.
So you're going to do sort of a sunset-y thing, right?
Yes, I liked that better than the night sky one.
See all these areas? She does this. I like the way she does it. See all these areas like right here where that little warmth is popping through?
You're not sharing your screen.
Oh, God damn it. I thought we solved that problem. That's your fault, Camille.
I see that. You had the bright pink underneath.
Yeah, like this right here and right here.
Mm-hmm.
She uses it a very stylistic thing, which I do the same thing, not quite as hard as she does, but
That's really
that's
nice.
just the tone board popping through here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Even here, right?
Who is this?
Jennifer McChristian. There's a name right there. She's a monster.
Okay.
If you get a chance, because she'll show around here because she's local. Go see her work
Okay.
because it's really good.
Okay.
But she has one. Look, I can never find it. It's not gonna be a landscape, I don't think.
That's beautiful.
Maybe it's figurative. There's this one she does. Look at these.
Mm.
She does a lot of the
Oh, wow.
statuary.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can see she left a little of that. She sort of glazed over it, but left a little of that underpainting to give that glow off the candles.
Mm-hmm. Is that on panel?
This is probably on panel, yeah. It's on panel, yeah. And it's oil. But do you understand that idea of undertoning the surface underneath?
Yes. Yes.
So it's for different reasons, like in this case again, like watch, I'll find one here. Hang on. Like even here, where you're doing this sort of night thing, when that little bit of orange pops through that sky, it'll vibrate a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And even in a day sky, it'll vibrate a little bit. There's this one she did of a, let me see if I can find it. It's another church one. This is nice right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Real nice sense of light, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I'm trying to find it, but I don't see it. Every time I try and find this painting, I can't find it. Oh well, I'll find it later. Okay. Okay. Color comps. Where did I put those? You remember what they were called? I'll just download them from here. Hang on.
Oh, there they are. They're right there. It says color 7-8.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, those ones. I should have put my name on them. I didn't think of that.
Yeah. I mean, you just send them over informally. So. Do you have fun doing the comps?
Mm-hmm. At first, they were slightly frustrating, but
Because
and a lot of them, the colors don't work. Like that number 8, that's pretty bad. But
well, that's why you do them.
yeah.
Who cares if they work? As long as you land on one that does. Who cares? Yeah, and then the other thing is you can't really manipulate the color much on that copy paper.
Yeah.
But like none of that bothers me because I'm just trying to get the big picture.
Mm-hmm.
And then the one you were talking about was 7, right?
Mm-hmm.
The thing I just noticed though, like there's a little bit of stuff in. Okay, so let's go. Maybe it's these. So let's get rid of this one for now.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. This stuff that you're doing up in here is kind of nice. So you're sort of modulating the wash. Where you got this a little more of a purpley kind of casket, and then it
Mm-hmm.
goes up into this blue. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like all that kind of stuff, where it's starting to the shapes and the colors are starting to move around a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what we're after. Okay. You have some nice shapy stuff in here, like this back here. Look at this. This right here, that
Mm-hmm.
building, that's nice.
Okay. Thank you.
And you see how when you lay the washes over a little bit of tone, how just boom, right away, it just sort of does half your job for you?
Yes. Yes.
There's something. Get rid of this. Let's see. Okay. So there's 3, 4, and then 7, 8. I'm wondering if you can get a little bit of this, maybe off the bottom. I'm not sure. Like this little highlight, this little warm highlight on the telescope is kind of nice.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering if that'll pop out of here. Where'd it go? I'm wondering if something like that'll pop out of here a little bit. Kind of nice because you got. It was 7 we were talking about, right?
Right.
I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. I was looking at this one. I was looking at this cool highlight.
Mm.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, it might go a little more. Maybe. But that's something. I don't think you need to do another color comp or anything.
Okay. I mean, I can. It's no big deal. I think I liked 7 just because it looked more unified. The other ones, the colors didn't quite. They just looked like they were just kind of put there randomly.
To me, that's what sort of happens every time I do color comps. There's just a bunch of them that just look random.
Mm-hmm.
I might. You're going to build this up anyway, so you know the rule of thumb is like working back to front, right?
Yes, yes. And that applies in watercolor as well?
It implies in everything, but be careful with that because here's the thing. Like, I mean, those are rules of thumb.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes you're just doing a painting where you're like, that just doesn't make sense for this painting. So don't get so hung up on those kind of rules of thumb if you need to. In general, that's a good rule. But here's the thing. When like I think I talked about it in the video where I'm trying to cover that. The main goal of that whole first part of that video is just, or that whole video, because that's the first part, is to get the surface covered, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want, so I'm going to kind of, I knocked in the background the sky. And then if you notice, I sort of left it alone because I don't want to start, because what can happen is your brain starts going to the idea of finish, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you start tricking out the background, and then you start moving to the foreground. You go, and then the background's way too much. Does that make sense?
Right. Right.
So with here, I'd ghost in all those cool values in the back on those buildings, in the sky and stuff. And then I'd sort of start moving forward, get everything sort of covered. And then, like I've noticed on mine, the next round, it's like, okay, the background has pretty much disappeared. I've got to go back in and pull that back out a little bit. But now that I've got the whole board covered, I can go in and trick out the bear quite a bit because I kind of know where he is in relation to everything else now. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And then I'll build him up because I go, okay, well, he's the star, so I'll build him up. And then I'll look at the background again and go, okay, I need to deepen the sky up here. I already know that. I need to bring that background up a little more. But now I've got my bear probably closer to finish where I'm going, okay, now everything's relative to each other again. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because you do those demos so fast, and then you're looking at it, you go, why did I put the tree straight like that? That tree should have, you know, got a nice curve to it. Yeah, I mean, who cares? It's a demo. But okay, does that make sense? What
It
else?
does.
What else you got? Oh, by the way, I'm going to try and get caught up on my grading this weekend. Okay.
Okay.
No other questions?
I guess that's it. So just start with washes and go from there. I guess, okay, I have one last question. In terms of warm and cool, do you think this is working? Or like, how would you handle the warm and cool aspect?
The probably thing I would do here on this roof is I'd probably knock that down a little bit.
Okay. The whole color?
Just a little bit, and then what's going to happen is if you can get it like sort of in a nice sort of warm, you know, obviously rooftop kind of thing, because you know it's getting some sun. Like I might try going and mixing a little bit of blue in there, but let the warm live a little more, right?
Okay.
Same thing over here. I might like this, and then whatever this over here. Yeah, you got a little bit of a cast shadow there. Could probably kind of do the same thing. And then when I threw this bluish thing over it, I either might knock the blue down a little bit, but it also is probably, this is transparent. So, you know, you got to kind of, what I usually do is I'll put a wash over it and go, does that look good? And if it doesn't look, let's say it looks too saturated, then I'll just lift it back out real quick before it dries.
Okay.
And then I might mix a little bit of like ultramarine and burnt sienna and gray it out a little bit, and then I might wash that over it. Because what you really probably want to get here is a little bit of an aged wood kind of thing, right? Yeah, so it's going to be a little bit, let's see if we can find an example. Like you can kind of see how he's knocking the sky back down here. Okay, and then like even here on this stone and stuff, everything's sort of muted a little bit, right? Now this one, it's this one. This a little closer. And then look at that purpley wash right there over that, right? And then back here's your blue. But if you look, you know, that blue's got a little bit of saturation to it, but not a whole lot, right?
Right.
But it's still got some back there. That's the trick. Like you don't want everything to get too dull, right? And then look, here's the roof right here. See that? You're kind of going for a little bit of that kind of thing, correct?
Yes.
Like it'll be getting a little more sun on it like this. And then if you notice, these shapes in here, they're just little stains of like purpley colors, a little bit of thing mixed in there.
Would that purple stuff go on first, or would that go on last?
I put the warm down first.
The warm first, okay.
And then, okay, so that purple works because like if you go like a yellow orangey color, its complement is like a violet whatever, right? And purple sits nice over that kind of thing, and they'll sort of start canceling each other out, but not too much. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because I want a little bit, I'm going to start doing it on the one I'm doing tomorrow, where I'll probably start getting a little more purples on that bear's fur where I want to cool it off. And it'll start building shapes, right? Just like he's building a lot of shapes. One of the things, like even in here, look at all these like little variations. You see that? That's just sort of like washing. You might let it dry and then go back over it wet, you know, here and there. The thing you got to get away, I think you got to get away from is when people go, they keep working on the overall wash over and over again. It's like, okay, now you're just ending up with a big fill color. You're not ending up with like nice shapes moving around. Does that make sense? Or another one is this one. Hang on. I just realized it. I think we've used this before. I use him a lot because he kind of works in a similar methodology.
Yeah.
Or at least I think he does.
It looks like he does.
Which is like classic methodology, right? I mean, I'm sure Beatrix Potter didn't work in that different methodology either, right? Or like that Jana Mattia person that we were looking at. She works in this. I mean, it's a very classic style and technique, right? And I like the directness of it. Here's another example of this. Actually, this might be better. We looked at this one before, I think.
Oh yeah, the lobster one.
So here you're getting almost exactly that kind of roof idea right here. You see that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then look at all these. See, there's those little stainy shapes. You see that?
Yes.
Like, that's really nice when you build up a lot. And it'll start to happen as you get more and more comfortable with it. Because, again, I used to look at that stuff and I go, how are they making all these decisions with all these little shapes, but it looks so cool, you know? And it's sort of like you just start going to the rabbit and go, oh, I need to cool that off a little bit. And you got another shape. Boom. I think I want to pull that up over here. Boom. You got another shape. You start getting all these shapes working together. Then also look at how he's working on this positive shape right here, this shadow value. Not much there, but it really defines the shingle, right?
Yeah.
Then over here, really cools off, right?
Yeah.
And that's a pretty, you know, that's, in the context of this painting, it looks pretty blue, but I bet you knocked that down quite a bit. Because what you don't want to do is get that screaming out of the tube color, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I see that all the time. And then there's things like if I'm doing demos in class or something, they'll go, well, you're taking that tube right, or that color right out of the tube. I go, I know, but I'm laying it over this color. And I actually want the vibrancy of this color, but since it's transparent, if I lay it over it, I'm going to keep the vibrancy of the color with both the colors, but they're going to cancel each other a little bit.
The mix. Yeah.
So I'm using all those sort of techniques to, one of the main things, like this is traditional media, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I want you guys to start understanding how to handle this stuff in that way. What does each medium do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when we get to acrylic, which we'll do after this, you're going to see that a lot of things translate into acrylic, but then a lot of things don't, right? Because now with acrylic, you have opacity into the mix.
Right.
And you have very fast drying. This is fast drying too, but you know, blah blah blah. You'll see when we get there. But then we have the added thing, we can add opacity. Okay, now we can add opacity here, and I'll show you that with wash. But to me, that's starting to become a little more of a mixed media thing. Kind of. I mean, they're both watercolors. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
And then see how he's saving. See how he saved his whites here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but he went back in and he still put some of that color in there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? He just took a really light wash and just knocked in a little bit of color. Because why? Because all that color is bouncing around in that environment, correct?
Right.
What else I have to say about that? Okay, so, and then look up here. This is a really nice example right here. You see that area?
Mm-hmm.
So this, like a little warm area, might be a nice little thing. And then he's knocking it down with the cool again. What does that do? Putting this cool right here really pops that warmth as you go closer to that light source, right?
Yeah.
So all those things are design decisions. That's not random. It might be random in the back of your mind, but I mean, he's been doing this for 100 years. So it's, in a lot of ways, even if in his mind it seems random, it's not. It's because he knows what he's doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Boy, does he know what he's doing. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
And again, the reason I'm picking these is they're pretty much mostly just watercolor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and look, you see the same idea over and over again, where there's this kind of warm, cool. Look at all this cool back here. Warm, cool. Warm, cool. You know, playing that warm, cool thing all over the place, right?
Mm-hmm.
What I'm trying to get you to do by telling you guys, like, mix pure color to pure color and kind of start with your complements, is that you're mixing pure color. That you're not starting. Hopefully, we can start to bypass either making paintings that are way too screaming saturated, or way too dull and lifeless and desaturated. Does that make sense?
Yes.
We want to hit a balance where it's that nice. I mean, we went to that children's golden book thing. Remember?
Yes. Yes.
I mean, I think you can really see that when you see a real illustration like that, how different it is when you see it in real life. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And like their handling of the vibrancy of the color and all those things, it's kind of mind blowing to me, don't you think?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because you're so used to seeing these iconic things on book covers or whatever, and then you see it, you go, "Wow, that's weird." When you see it in real life, you go, "It's a painting. Like it's really
Yeah.
a painting. Like it takes it out of the context of." Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And then you see like all the little marks and where they put white over their mistakes and everything. Yeah.
You see the craft.
Yes.
You know, and I love seeing the craft and seeing, like, I don't know, all that stuff. I think we talked about this. As soon as I see those things in real life, it takes me right to like somebody's little studio in Connecticut in 1972 that their drawing board making this little thing. You know what I mean? It takes me to that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
What's this one? Susie, did you put that in there? Your mic's off.
I sent a file to you in the chat just as an inspiration.
Well, let me see.
Okay, because I'm really struggling with it.
With
the
what?
idea in my head of the artists that I'm inspired by, who are more graphic and saturate, exactly the opposite of what you're saying.
Okay, that's a stylistic choice.
Okay.
Okay, so that to me is a different thing. Okay, if you want to do a more saturated thing, that's totally fine. All I'm saying is manage it. Okay, so like if I go, I want to do a very saturated thing, that's totally fine. But that now, what a lot of students will go, oh, cool, I'll just take pure yellow out of the tube and put it on here. I'll just take pure orange and I'll put it on here. That's probably not going to work. You know what I mean?
Okay.
You're still going to have to manage your colors, and you still might have to kind of knock them back in relation to each other. I don't have a problem at all if you want to do a high key color thing. That's totally fine. All I'm saying is I want it to be managed and I want it to be controlled. Does that make sense?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And again, what I'm kind of speaking from is, I'm going to cut myself. You see that? Again, it's sort of a fundamental thinking, a fundamental breakdown of sort of like paint thinking. Okay. But yes, but really what I'm trying to do is just go, okay, just make sure you're controlling your color. Whatever kind of color scheme you want to do, just control it is all I'm saying. Okay.
Okay.
And again, if I don't do that, then I've had this happen where students come back and they just painted everything out of the tube and it's hideous. And I go, well, you painted everything. They go, well, you said I could paint it high key. And it's like, I know, but that doesn't just mean you spent 10 minutes on it and you just blasted a bunch of crazy color right out of the tube all over it. And then over here you got Viridian, and over here you got, I don't know, sap green. And how do these make sense in the same environment? These are both in the light and both of them are screaming green. This one's super cool. This one's super warm. I don't get it. You know what I mean? Or even that idea, like one of the reasons I like to use a split primary palette is it just makes it a little easier for me to get warm and cool versions of the colors I want. Okay. Or like with lemon yellow, even though lemon yellow's got a little touch of green in it, it's a real screaming hot color, right? So if I want to do like a real acidic area of grass in, you know, where the sun's hitting a certain spot of it, I might just go straight down with that lemon yellow, and then I might let that dry and then do a glaze of like cobalt over it. It's going to be a pretty screaming green. Let that dry, and then I'll mix down a more desaturated sort of shadow value by mixing my red into it a little bit. And then I'll put a big swipe pass over that and just miss all the lit area, so it'll look like dark grass getting sun hitting one area of it. Does that make sense? So and all I'm saying is control it. That's all.
Okay.
Because I get people all the time and they think that I think some of them go, and I know you're not doing this, I think some of them go, oh, I want to do saturated translation. I don't want to work that hard, and I just want to do color out of the tube. And it's like, well, color out of the tube does. By the way, you want to see a really good example of that? Do you know who Wyland is?
Yeah.
That whale guy? Go to his gallery in Laguna. Go to his gallery in Laguna and be prepared to walk out of there with a toothache. Okay? Everything is so sugary out of the color. It's hideous. Okay. His gallery is hideous. And it's weird too, because he's like world known and all that. But by the way, as a marketing ploy, this is a good thing to think about. Because I looked at that, and I mean, I've seen that guy. I think he's been around for like forever.
He has.
And like I want to say since the 70s even, but I'm not sure. But I don't pay that much attention to it. He attached a message to it, which is "Save the Whales" or whatever. Then he goes around and paints all these murals, and I'd argue, and I don't think he did it necessarily just for this reason or anything, but that's a marketing tool. Like as soon as you do that, you go, "Oh, I'm for the environment. I'm for whales. I'll buy a Wyland painting, even though they're hideous." Okay.
Yeah.
And then he had and I was looking at him with this is a while back. Oh, I was looking at it with a friend of mine, Agnieszka, I think. And we're sitting. I go, I don't think I'd ever been in his gallery or something. Or if it had, it's 20 years before or whatever. I remember I was looking at it and I go, I don't get this at all. These things are really bad. Okay. And then he had an area in the back that was like these things on this wood panel. It's like untreated wood panel. That I thought were like fan art or something. Like it was people who liked his work and they were doing, I mean, they were just absolutely terrible. But the thing that was weird to me about it is I was looking at it going, this stuff looks like it's painted like almost totally out of the tube. Okay.
Yeah.
And then he had a show on PBS, I don't know if he still does, where he was doing, he's showing how to paint or whatever. And he seems like a nice enough guy. I'm not trying to tear him apart or whatever. But, and there's people who like that stuff. I get it. But anyway, so then he's painting. He's going, okay, so we're painting this seal or whatever. Then he goes, okay, the seal's mostly brown or whatever. Okay. And he just takes brown out of the tube and starts. And I go, I knew he painted like that. Then he goes, in the eyes are black, takes black out of the tube. And I'm just watching him paint this thing, and I'm like, this is the worst way to paint to teach people how to paint. Like, you're not teaching them anything about color mixing or subtlety or any of that stuff.
Yeah.
It's like you're pulling stuff out of the tube, and then he sells his own paint or whatever. So then I'm going, he probably has stuff where it's sort of like a beach palette. You know what I mean? So, hey, here's your sky color. Here's your thin color. And if you're a hobby painter and you're just having fun, that's totally fine. If you're serious, it's not. You know what I mean? But point being, if you're in that area, go check out his gallery and just look at what I'm talking about, because he's a good example of going, this stuff is just screaming out of the tube.
Yeah.
Really bad. You know what I mean? It's a really good example of somebody, to me, not really managing it very well.
Uh-huh.
And they also feel those paintings feel very hobbyist to me. And I know he's a professional, I get it. But the techniques and everything feel very Bob Ross. You know what I mean?
Right.
But again, point being, go check them out and you'll see what painting out of the tube looks like,
Okay.
And by the way, again, a lot of people paint high key. That's a different thing. High key, with all the colors are brighter and stuff like that. That's totally fine. Okay.
Okay.
And then let me see if I can find this. This is an old article. Let me see if I can find it. Because it might actually be relevant to this.
Hey, Albert.
What's that? Oh. All right. Camille.
Right now, okay.
Camille.
Mm-hmm.
You have any other questions?
No, that's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Looks like you transferred it really good.
Okay.
How long did it take you to pull the drawing back out of it?
Oh, maybe an hour or two.
Doesn't take very long, right?
No. I mean, that's probably actually an exaggeration now that I think about it. I transferred it once, it didn't really work, so this is actually the second one. So total, that probably took a couple hours. But
yeah, but that's because you redrew it again, though, in a different pencil, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's different. So, but it doesn't take that long. When people see, like, when they're watching that process and they go, oh, it's long, it really doesn't take that long.
Mm-hmm.
It takes me maybe at the most about a half an hour to transfer the drawing, and then probably about I love pulling it back out. So I tend to spend more time on every part of this process than normal people would probably, just because I like it. But I mean, I can pull that drawing out pretty damn fast. And if you did it, that's the first time you've done it, and you did it in an hour, that's fast. Because it's saving me a ton of time on the back end on the painting side.
Yes.
And I actually, and again, I know I've said this over and over again, but I just like that it sort of kickstarts the painting for me very quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that it does that.
Yeah. And then you'll find out, by the way, that you can do a lot of, when we get to acrylic, I'm going to show you a way to transfer the drawing where you don't have to transfer anything, right?
Okay.
Where it's
That's
just
exciting.
like, you can use the same drawing over and over again and just go, oh, I screwed it up, screw it, boom, put it back down, do it all over again. And you don't have to draw shit, right?
Okay.
Or anything, sorry. By the way, I put, hang on. I put last week's video up, right? I did, okay. Tomorrow, I'm going to, wait, not tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, I think. Or maybe today if we get done a little early. I'm going to try and finish off the video. Because there's some stuff on the tail end of it that I want to go over, some mixed media stuff and all that. That way I'll have that this week, you know, you'll be painting stuff, and then you can hopefully, and I should be able to get that done. And then you can look at the second half of it and go, oh, okay, here's how I can take it to finish. And oh, I could do this, and oh, I could do this with it. Does that make sense? Yeah?
Yes, it does.
All right,
It's
Susie.
apple, apple. Just trying to be different.
By the way, that Yadro thing, that dog playing the bongos, wasn't that super weird looking?
And it's expensive too. It's a real collector's piece.
All that, those Yadro things are all collectible. I don't get it. Like, you've seen those before, right?
Oh yeah, but a dog playing the bongo drums. I had never seen that. I thought, but all of a sudden, you know, it's in my brain. So
What was
crazy.
weird to me about it is it didn't really look friendly or like cute or anything. It looked kind of weird, and it was kind of looking at you. It was like kind of looking
Crazy.
at you weird, you know?
Yeah, creepy.
Yeah, it was kind of creepy. I hate using that word because I think it's overused.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was kind of creepy. And it
So-
kind of looked like a hippie, but it's weird. Like they didn't nail it. I think it's because, like, isn't Yadro usually like kids playing and stuff like that?
Or ballerinas, or
Yeah, like very
really
very,
graceful, beautiful
very
things.
Thomas Kincaid kind of stuff, right?
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah.
But it almost looks like it just didn't fit into that universe in some weird way. Like it's like, this doesn't really make sense. And I don't really follow that stuff. And what's
Right.
weird about that stuff is, like, isn't that stuff sort of everywhere? Like, it's really mass produced, right?
Right.
But it's like, and then the only thing that makes it collectible are the people who collect it. That's the only thing that makes it collectible.
Yeah. Or someone who collects it for you. Someone was doing that for us in the family. We had to tell them, please stop. Please stop.
Oh, when they send it to you for, like, your birthday or whatever.
Every Christmas. Yeah. Yeah.
That's why I never give people art or anything. Like, sometimes, I mean, I'm not going to go around giving away paintings anyway, but they'll go, why don't you this person paint? I go, number one, they might hate it. They might hate the way I paint. You know what I mean? They go, well, it's, you know how to paint well. I go, it doesn't matter if I know how to paint well or whatever. My style or whatever. They just might not like it. And now I give them this thing, and then if I ever come over, then they got to put it up, even though it's really in the closet all the time. You know, it's just, you know, it's like, I don't know their art tastes, and I don't want to do that.
Right.
I want to do that maybe once that I can think of. Okay. So what do you think? Oh, you got it
So-
transferred down, huh?
It's transferred. Yeah. I'm afraid I might have ruined the paper a little bit because that took me more than a couple of hours. That took me about all day. That took
How
way
did you
too long to
transfer
do.
How did you transfer it?
I ended up light tabling it because I couldn't, for the life of me, think about drawing that backwards and forwards. And
That's fine.
I don't
It's
know.
light table.
Okay. So I light tabled it, and you know, that guy at the top, he breaks through the border. You could see the border lines, right?
Yeah.
On that drawing. And then you could see kind of the margin or the gutter in the middle too.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was trying to
Don't worry
accommodate
about the
all-
gutter anymore because you've already designed it. You already know it works. It's fine.
Okay, I was just trying to accommodate that.
Yeah.
So I have a really busy left side. I have a pretty simple right side.
But the right side's where, in my brain, is where the type would go.
Right.
So
Which
you would
we
actually
don't have
do
to
the
put
break for
anything
the
in
type.
there.
Huh?
We don't have to put anything in there, right? Ourselves?
No.
Okay. All right. So yeah, the drawing's transferred and it took so long, and now I'm scared to death when I wet it and stretch it and watercolored, I'm going to destroy
I
it
feel
in a
the
matter
same
of
way.
minutes, you know?
Okay, everybody feels like that. Okay, everybody feels.
Okay.
And by the way, I still feel like that every time I start one of these. Okay, the only difference is I go, if I screw it up, I do another one. Who cares? But like even doing the demo for this, I go, I got to get something. I have a very short window of time to get those things done, right? So I got to get a drawing done. So then I go and find, oh, I already did this for another class. I'll use this same bear or whatever. And I just got to add in a background. And I go, okay, now I got to transfer it. And if I screw it up, and the whole time I'm going, if I screw this up, man, I'm going to, you know, I got to go do this again, which normally I don't really care about. But I go, I got to film this. I got to edit this. I got to narrate this. I got to do all this shit on the back end of it. So I need to get this done. So it's sort of a same kind of feeling of deadline, except the only good part is nobody's hanging over my shoulder bothering me about it. But I still get the same way. I still get a little bit of anxiety about like, and by the way, once you break the ice, that does it. Like I find something that's fairly easy to do, like the sky for me. I just go, okay, it's pretty simple. I'm gonna wet that area down, flood it with some blue, and then I'm gonna pull things out of it. And once I get that paper idea of getting something on that paper, it really helps to get me flowing. Does that make sense? Because I think it's always that first mark making, especially if you're new to this, that first mark making is it gives you anxiety. I totally get it. Okay? And the other thing, if you want, you know, make sure you tape it off and everything. But you know, you could vignette the right side. Like you could just let this sort of fade off if you want. You know, I'm not going to get all super hard ass on this on this one especially about little things like, well, I made it a little taller or whatever. That's fine. You know what I mean? So that I wouldn't worry about that. Or, you know, and then I start going, okay, I've got this empty expanse over here. Maybe I'll just have that sort of vignette off on that side. And then maybe I'll even vignette the edges right there. Or who knows? I don't know. It might be kind of cool to have a harder edge border on this side, and then it vignettes off to the other side. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because, you know, the focal points, everything going on in that band. So I would think that should be sharper and probably more colorful.
Good.
I don't know. I'm struggling. I'm not practiced at value studies. I'm not practiced at color comps. I mean, struggle all the way.
That's why you're here. Correct?
Yeah.
I don't expect everybody to know this stuff, or why would they be here? You know what I mean?
Okay.
And then you're going to get people at varying levels in every class you're in. So like, to me, that's all, disregard all that. You know what I mean? Because I get a lot of people in these classes, and they're newer to it, and they'll see like what Camille's doing or whatever, and go, "Wow, that's really." It's like, I know, but there's people at all different levels in these classes. Okay, you can't. This isn't the type of class. Like if it was a high-level advanced illustration class, then I'd be like, "Yeah, look at you're getting your ass kicked." You know what I mean? Because then I'd be going, "Well, you're in advanced class now. You should be good." And now you should get in here. Now it's competition time. You know what I mean? Now you want to kick everybody's ass. In here, this is a mechanics class. This is how I always look at this. Certain classes are mechanics classes, and certain classes are, you know, whatever they are, advanced illustration, whatever. But this is mechanics. So this is, I don't expect you to come here knowing anything. Okay? Literally.
Good.
I think you transferred your drawing pretty nice.
Okay, thank you.
And when you stretch it, it's gonna it'll knock down a little. And I'd probably just let it sit back like that.
Okay.
And you cleaned up your drawing pretty good. And then like this little value and stuff that you put like here, that'll help you.
Okay.
When you wash color over all this stuff, it's gonna start to be, you know, like this could be, aren't those usually silver, like aluminum or something? Yeah, so you could put like a real subtle, like if you got a blue sky up here, right?
Well, I have very little sky. You know, look at that horizon. I have very little sky. I guess I could have more behind the van.
What I would do is, okay, so this information right here, oh, that's the border, right?
Yeah, and it was intentional that I broke through the border. We talked.
Yeah, if you want to break the border, that's
kind of like a pop-up.
If you want to break the border, that's fine. But also, if you want to take the border up to here or something, so you have more sky, that's fine too.
All right, because I might want to play with the sky more. I don't know now, but okay.
That's up to you. I'm not gonna get anybody for like, oh, it's a little different size, or I'm not gonna get crazy with it.
Okay.
Just make sure that you like, if you put it up to this edge or whatever, make sure you got just at least a little bit to trim off.
I still have room.
Yeah, or you
There's
could even
room.
go. You could even go to a 1/2 inch tape,
Mm-hmm.
and then that way you can get up a little closer to it, and just do 1/2 inch border instead of a full border or full 1 inch. Because either or works.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. Part of the reason that I like
Okay.
to have an inch, I like the way it looks, but I also like if I ever drop it or something and it dings the edge of the paper, I can go just take a 1/4 of an inch off or an 1/8 of an inch off, and I get a clean border again.
Okay.
Not that it matters to anybody, but it matters to me.
Yeah.
So
So now, when I was transferring that drawing, I got hung up on a part of it, and I was erasing with the kneaded eraser, but I'm afraid I might have disrupted the surface of that watercolor
as
paper.
long as you didn't break that surface, you should be okay.
I don't know if I did, because
Well,
look how it looks pretty smudgy, that dog. I'm not happy with that dog on top,
This
but
guy?
I just had to move on. Yeah, I just had to move on. He
That's
looks
all right. Don't worry about it.
ridiculous. So
I can read it. That's the
anyway,
main thing.
all right, just had to move on.
Yeah, at some point. You do.
Okay.
Let's look here. Okay, what's going on here?
That's me trying to learn all my tubes of watercolors that I've had for 15 years that I never used. So, and mixing. My idea was to have the lime green color, that's a leaf green van, but then the orange with the ultramarine blue doesn't look too bad. I tried a limited palette with the Prussian alizarin and the yellow ochre, but I don't know. I want to stay with the really vibrant colors.
This chart looks like chemistry.
This is why I just get so overwhelmed. It's like, what the heck?
Okay, so here's the thing. Again, this is why I say this. Start off with compliments, okay? If you want to, you basically mostly, okay, so Ken Oster said that life's just a bunch of colored grays, okay? And I agree with that to a certain extent.
Wait, say that again, because you cut out. You cut
life,
out. I gotta hear that.
When you're painting, everything in the world is just a series of colored grays. Do you hear that?
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
true, okay? When I go out and paint from life, or paint period, but especially from life, I'm never, almost ever using stuff straight out of the tube. I'm going,
Yeah.
oh, I need to get that rust color. I'll go a little orange and blue. That'll give me a warm gray, because they're complements, right? That'll give me a warm gray, and then I'll go, it's a little warmer, so I'm going to kick a little bit of burnt sienna in there. I consider burnt sienna an orange, so I'm just pushing a little more, or I might even take some of the orange and push that in a little more, so it's just a little more popping out. So this gray wash now is a very warm, orangey wash, and if it's a rusty building under construction, with girders and all that, that might be the perfect color, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or the sky. If it's a day where it's not a screaming blue sky, then I probably might take some ultramarine and again a little burnt sienna, pop it in there, and that'll knock the yellow or the blue down, and I'll get a little more of a slatey grayish blue for the sky if it's a little grayer day. And I'm usually just starting there. Okay, I'm usually starting with complements. So if you go in and you go, okay, I want to make this thing orange, even if it's a pretty bright orange, because this is what people do is they'll go, well, that's a bright orange on the van or whatever. And I'll go, I know, but it's like, that's right out of the tube. And they go, yeah, but it's bright. And I'm like, yeah, but that doesn't look like that. If you look at this and that, it's still knocked down. It's still going to look bright in relation to all the other colors and everything you put in there, but you got to knock it down a little bit. Now, once in a while, like at the end of a painting, like let's say there's a couple of, what are those things called? Geraniums or whatever. Anyway, we have some on the deck. And they're
geraniums.
They're beautiful, screaming like magenta pink, And like at the end where I go, oh, I got a couple of wildflowers in that scene, maybe a couple of, dandelions or something. I might take just a little dry brush and kind of dance little flecks here and there. And that might be pure, but I've set the whole painting up for that little pop. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to go, even if you're painting those fields of wildflowers and you see those big areas of, you know, one big smudge of paint and it looks like pure out of the tube paint, it's probably not. You know what I mean? You're always sort of knocking it down a little bit and managing it, okay? So what I would try and do here is to simplify it is just go, number one, I would go, because I do like the orange bus. Is that what you were saying? Because I like the orange bus.
Okay. Well, yeah, there it's with a compliment there.
I might have to hook up my camera here. Because I have a couple of things here. So like, see how this color, what is that? That's not Prussian.
Ultramarine blue.
Oh, that's ultramarine? Well, my screen's reading a little gray. Or green, I mean. Oh, I see it up here, okay. That's gonna get knocked down, right?
Right.
I think I need to hook up my camera. Shit. Can you guys give me like 5 minutes? Yeah?
Yeah. Sorry, I feel like I'm taking so much of your time. So.
I have all day. Okay, look, let me explain something to you because this is important. This stuff, when you're first learning it, or even when it doesn't matter if you're first learning it, it's complicated. Okay? We have to have discussions around it. And if I don't sit down and go down the rabbit hole a little bit with you, then I feel like I'm just leaving you in the dark. Does that make sense? So I don't have any problem having a discussion around this. And I also think it helps everybody in the class.
Okay. I hope so.
So I want discussion. I want this to be a deep level dive into this stuff. I want that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I do not want to come in here and go, hey, everybody, here's the salt technique. Okay, go make a painting. See you later. Okay, it's due next week. I don't want to do that. That's surface crap to me. This class for me was never designed to be surface. It's designed to give you guys a very good understanding of paint handling. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So when you come out of here, hopefully you go, I mean, you're going to look, and you're going to have to do it and stuff, you know, just do it. But just trying to give you a methodology around it that you can start following and start improving because you have some sort of methodology. Does that make sense? And some sort of thinking. And by the way, the understanding of another thing is important to me is what we're talking about right now, which is, yes, you need to take color theory and all that, but whoever's teaching color theory also needs to do what I'm trying to do in here, which is take this now into the real world, because when it's all color theory, that's all well and good and that's great. But, and, you know, and you're talking about triadic relationships and quadratic relationships. Well, that's really good when you're plotting your color scheme or whatever, right? But I'm talking about just throwing down paint and going, okay, I'm going to make this look like what I want it to look like. That's the reason I talk about compliments is it's just after all these years, I found out like, oh, if you just start with that, 90% of what I'm doing after all these years is still that. Does that make sense? And then I'm just modifying.
Simplifies it.
Huh?
That simplifies it.
Yeah, it simplifies it and it gets you a starting point, because like if you don't have a starting point going into color, then you're sort of totally like, well, how the hell do I approach this? You know what I mean? Because I went through that period, even though it was after Art Center and everything. I went through a period where I'm like, well, how does this stuff relate to the real world? Like, how do I, you know, and I had one teacher did a little bit, but anyway, give me like a couple seconds. I'm going to hook up my camera. Okay.
Okay. Thanks. Thank you.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
The space is like totally screwed up now because we're well into the term. So it's like a exploded art supply store in here. I need to reorganize it. I'm going to take a little of this ultramarine and a little of this burnt sienna. So what is a burnt sienna in this case?
What do you mean? Well, it makes the black. It makes
well, it's making a nice bluish.
Blue black.
And if you see, if I put that down, it gives me and I know it's a little hard to see on Zoom, but it gives me a nice asphalt color. Does that make sense? What I'm asking is the burnt sienna is basically acting. And it's hard to see it on there.
Oh, it dulls it or deadens the color.
It's acting like a natural orange. Okay, so the orange is a complement of the blue, but on top of that, it's sort of an earth tony color, so it's really going to knock it down, right? So if you look at it, it's giving me a really good, and let's take a little bit of red in here, or I'm using magenta, which is pretty hot. And I'm getting a pretty dulled down, you know, reddish. And let's add a little more blue to it. And I can start to go, see how that's a little more purple?
Yeah, yeah, I like that.
Now, sometimes what'll happen, if you've ever noticed this, so that's a little purple. That's pretty nice right there. Okay. So, which I mixed out of my what? My already reduced down asphalt color, right? Then I introduce a little bit of purple in there. Well, that's still primarily blue, so it goes to a duller violet color. So I can mix and dull. And the reason I do that, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but sometimes when you're driving like on a highway, like out in, you know, the 5 going out through the Central Valley or someplace like that, when there's a real sunsetty sunset going on, an orangey sunset, if you ever notice, look at the road, and sometimes the asphalt will go screaming purple. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
It's just that light, you know, pushes that color. So like this kind of color might be a nice color to get that against more of a saturated, this is gonna be too saturated, but you know, and then, is this dry yet? Not quite dry. If I take, you can see that relationship right there. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
How that kind of creates that thing?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I could go, maybe I could take some of this and move it up into here as it goes up, because sometimes it'll purple up as it goes back up into the sky again. And I'm mixing these two wet into wet. See how they're blending?
Yes.
So I'm always thinking about like, how am I gonna, you know, just like we were doing with the sky color in that video, I like to flood this and then grab my sky color and just flood into that. I got some of that dirty stuff in there. And just flood this in there. And then if I want to go like, oh, I want to put a little swatch of, dull this down towards the horizon. If this was in a city or whatever, that could get pretty dull, dirty down here as it goes down towards the horizon. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, and then I can, that also gives me the opportunity. Oh, by the way, I got to show you something. Hang on. You know, and then I can come in here and lift some of this out if I want and get some clouds and things.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still going to think about this a little drier. While that's doing its thing, I'm still going to come in here and go, do I need to soften this edge a little bit? Maybe, maybe not, right? That's
I could use that for the smoke, couldn't I?
Sure.
Coming out of the
you could,
van.
with smoke, you could go, hang on. Well, I actually have something where it's supposed to be. And smoke, by the way, with smoke, I might go, because I think I'm going to put some in mine. I might do this is actually a nice color up here in the sky. I know it's probably hard to see on there, but it's actually a pretty nice color. Then it's going down to this dirty stuff down here. It's just, it'll start to suggest a little scene by doing hardly anything. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Smoke, I might go, like make my little smoke trail wet and then grab my smoke color And I want some color in that smoke, by the way. I'm going to do my same little asphalt wash. See how that looks. I might just come in here. And also that wash was a little too wet, so I'm going to knock it down. So the wash, you know, how wet that wash is matters too, you guys. And I might start building my smoke thing like that. And let it dissipate up here, because that's what it would really do. So I'm going to flood this out up here. And then I'm going to manage these edges a little bit. And then, you know, I might go, I want it a little dirtier, a little warmer. Like I'm probably going to want it a little warmer down towards the source. Not a lot of hard edges in this. And I'm softening these edges, even though it's wet in the wet, I'm going to soften these up a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You know, and then I'm going to probably let that dry, and then I'm going to start building it, right? That's not going to be the end all be all of it. I'm going to let it dry, and then I'm going to start punching values. Maybe just put some wet over dry stuff. Okay.
Okay.
So, and then like our van, where'd it go? You know, where's my, what'd you do with my pencil, Camille? Let me look at this right here. I need it for reference. There we go. It's going to be super half-assed. Another thing I might do is behind those dogs, like here's a dog, right? Can you see my drawing? Yeah, you can, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see it.
Here's this. Behind that dog, I might put like a little darker value, like there's a seat back behind them or something.
Okay.
And I might just do that in the pencil. But, you know, and then here, and let's just say this is my VW symbol. I'm just going to make it a circle. Yeah, maybe I'll put. I'm just going to do it like that. I know that's wrong, but, you know, and then this. But point being, if I do want it to be like an orange, if I go in here with this, that's pretty crazy, right?
Okay.
But what I could maybe do, if the light's up here, up on the right, so let's say our light's right there. Again, maybe I can flood this. I do that a lot, you know, and then even in here a little bit. And I'm not trying to keep everything perfectly in the lines or all that kind of thing. I just want it to be, oops. I'm gonna put that like that. And maybe, so I'm gonna dull this down just by going.
Nico, shh. Sorry.
Let's try something here.
The dog's crying.
I'm gonna put a little bit of blue in this. Now, there's a couple of things. I might water down this orange, like really down, and just check it and go, okay, well, it's got to go a little heavier than that. And then where's my light at? My light's up there, my light's over here. I'm leaving these edges a little bit white right here because now I'm starting to think I could put a reflected light in there. And if I forget, I can always do it with gouache, but I like doing it with, and then I'm going to take a little of this See, this color is a little bit dulled down. So what I'm going to do is go, okay, where it's going over towards the, away from the light, I'm knocking it down a little bit. And then where it comes in here towards the light, I can go a little more saturated over here.
Okay.
So I'm still going to get like, because the sun's going to, where the sun hits it is where it's going to get really saturated.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want all of it like that. Again, it's going to start looking too coloring booky.
Okay.
Do you see what I'm doing?
Mm-hmm.
So as it moves into the light, I'm getting a little more saturated. And this doesn't feel too bad. It's still just slightly knocked down. And I'm also not going full, I'm building it up is what I'm doing, right? Then I might even go, maybe it's got some dirty reflections over here. And then I might take, this is probably still too wet to do this, but I'm going to try it. I'm going to take a little, let's say that the sky color, what kind of sky is it? Is it sunset or is it bluish? I'd probably do bluish just to contrast the yellow.
Okay. Keep things warmer up front.
Yeah,
then.
I mean, you don't have to, but I'm just for the sake of this discussion, because I want to get a contrasting color here. So down here, I'm going to put my, let's get this done right now. And I'm working dark to light. I mean, light to dark, I'm sorry. So here's my asphalt color. And by the way, as that goes out to the horizon, I could probably just add a little more water color to it and dull it out, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, thin it down so it's not, you know, as it goes into the distance, it starts to fade out a little bit.
Okay.
You know, and I could even save this if I wanted to. Let's see if I can take it back out. Probably even save a little bit of the, I could have flooded this all except for the lane marker and save that white, and then I could pop a little bit of warm yellow in there for the lane marker. Or I could just paint it, I could paint it over with gouache too, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
And then if I take this ultramarine blue and burnt sienna mix and I go heavier with it and more neutral with it, and this I'm just going to go right into the, this is going to spread because this is still wet, but and I can start, and I've totally neutralized it here. Can you see that? So now I can get a nice little tire color because I've neutralized the color. Now it's more of a gray. Okay.
Right.
That's that same mix. Okay. And then like here, let's say that this sky, and again, I might, maybe I'll take some of this and dull it towards the horizon. It's also going to get lighter towards the horizon. I'm going to pull a little out down here. But then if I do that, then I've got an excuse when that dries, like on this, whatever this thing's called, this top part can start reflecting a little bit of the blue up top. And this bottom part can reflect a little warmth off the ground. Does that make sense?
Uh-huh.
Now I'm going to pull out a little bit of this light, or yeah, pull a little light out of it. And then once this dries down here, I'm going to put my, and this I can pull some of that tire color out of, and I might even have the tire just pull right out of this wash and mix right with it. I like doing that. You know, and get my shadow value. Now, why is that working? That I use that shadow value, same shadow value I used for this dull on this asphalt.
It's just another shade of the same
Right.
color.
It's harmony.
Another
Right?
value, yeah.
It's just harmony. So what starts to happen is you start to these colors start to harmonize. Your palette starts to harmonize. And if you have the smaller the palette, the faster it's going to happen. That's why you don't want to have too many colors.
Okay.
Does that make sense, what I just did?
Yes, thank you.
So translation, you know, you're going to see once you start getting mixture. And what's nice about watercolor is that you can keep reactivating it. I don't know if you guys saw in that video, I used wax paper over a piece of whatever kind of white paper I got. And that way, like once that palette gets dirty and messed up, I just tear it up and I throw it away and I put another one out, right? And also it's sort of like the same surface as that plastic palette I'm using. It just kind of behaves the same way, except like right now I'm running out of space on that palette. So with the wax paper, I never run out of space, because once I start running out of space, and then the other thing with watercolor is if you got a mix lane in there and you're going, oh, that would be great for the shadow value. You can just go reactivate it and throw it in there. You know what I mean? It's not like acrylic where once a mix dries up, you're screwed. You can't use it anymore.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
Or even gouache. I mean, gouache you can reactivate, but the stuff that's opaque, once that paint dries up, you're kind of screwed. Okay, what are the questions on this?
That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
It wasn't too bad. But that answered everything, correct?
Yes. Thanks.
All right. Who else has questions? Just like questions. I'm assuming if you watch something like that, you're going to have questions. Nobody?
I have a question, Professor.
Sure.
Could you show me how to color bubble in the warm temperature?
Do what?
The bubble?
Oh,
My
bubbles.
drawing is, bubbles. But in the warm temperature, should I mix it with the yellow ochre, or I'm not sure.
I might have another image to show you here, but it's going to be from the same person, but that's all right. Oh, good. These are great. Oh, so you got it. Okay, so hang on. Susie, does that knock down some of the confusion on the color mixing? Where'd Susie go?
Yes, yeah, it does. Thank you.
And I know that's a big subject. I get it. Okay, so this is going to be pretty simple. I mean, which is nice that you broke it up that way. Hang on.
I cannot see your screen.
Yeah, I know. I'm doing it right now. You guys see my screen?
Yes, okay now.
I mean, it's going to be.
Yeah, I can see it.
It's going to be fairly simple here. There it goes. Let's just play with it here real quick. I mean, if we just really break this down really simply. You could probably. Trying to find the right blue. That's not too bad. I mean, if you break this down, to really simple, it's going to be screaming yellow, but I'll adjust it. If you break it down to its two ideas, it's going to be something like that. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank
And
you.
then we can go really. This is where the light's coming from.
Right.
So this can go a little brighter. I could even probably go way up bright here and there. And maybe take this same yellow. You know, and start lighting some of this stuff up. These will get highlights with that same light. I might dull some of these out a little bit. Hang on. I'm going to knock this way down. I might get a little bit of that blue here and there in those bubbles.
Okay.
But when they come into the light, then I might kind of go, I mean, you have to experiment with it. But I can come up with a lot of solutions for the bubbles. There's a lot of play there. You know, maybe I'll push it a little more. Get a little more purple, maybe. You know, and then some places I'd have specularity. I'll get a couple of blasts of light here and there, not there. You know, like here. That make sense?
Yes. Yes.
Now you're going to have colors within those two colors, obviously, but that's the big idea, is this warm, cool idea, right?
Right. Thank you.
That answer that?
Yeah.
Okay, good. No thanks to Camille. All right, who else? Anybody? Hey, Allison, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
This is getting pretty screaming out of the tube right here. Right?
Yeah.
Here's a good way of looking at it. I know we're not doing realism, I get it, but. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Now look what he's doing there. Look at all these nice wet into wet washes. Look at this back here. Now I know this is you know, more of a fine arty thing, I get it. But and then look how he, while it was still wet, he flooded a little of that blue in there and some of that, little bit of that warm light on it.
Right.
Very simple, okay? But
Okay.
it's a very modulated color. So what people do with pink or with flamingos, they go, oh, they're pink, and they go get pink out of the tube, and it's like, that doesn't work. You know what I mean?
Okay.
You got to really dial in that weird, like he really dialed in that weird temperature here.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
And really get that drawing nailed down.
Okay.
All right. Those are bitching, by the way. Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Another good example of this is, let's go back. Because he does a lot of wet into wet kind of stuff. And I know it's not apples to apples, but it kind of is in a way, actually. Like this is very wet into wetty looking.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's great, right? Then look how he uses this black back here. Now this is an occasion where you go, okay, you can use black for that. You want to just pop it out, right?
Mm-hmm.
I use it in a children's book thing, but look at these washes when you get up close to it. Once again, this is all abstract. If I block out some of this, see if it does it. Hang on. Crap, no, I'm stuck. Why does this not want to open? Oh, there it is. Just open it. Okay. You know, if you take any of these sections here and blow it up, you've got an abstract painting. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Really nice abstract paintings, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
This is a really nice one right there. Even here, maybe. Yeah, you still get an eye out of that. Okay, but very, you know, in other words, putting all these shapes together to create something, as opposed to thinking like, ooh, everything has to be soft edged and you know, rendered out like that rendering thing. I mean, this to the average person probably looks pretty rendered out.
Mm-hmm.
And it is in its own way, but it is in a very nice, loose, natural kind of way. Does that make sense?
Yes.
He's a really good guy to look at for simplicity.
Okay. Thank you.
And color and shape and form and balance and design. I mean, he's just great.
Thank you.
Hey, Daniel, you got yours taped down, or you got yours mounted down? Where's Daniel? Is he here? I don't see him. Oh, here he is. Why is Daniel not answering me?
Maybe his mic doesn't work?
That one's mine.
Oh, that's really? Wait a minute. Hang on. Oh, it's in my folder marked Daniel. So this is Alec?
No, that's Daniel's. That's mine. Sorry. I'm Daniel.
Not mine.
Oh, you're Daniel. Okay. Do you got enough room here for your border?
Well, I measured it in inch from like, I stapled on the border.
We don't. Okay, you got to have enough room to put the tape and then cut it out of the tape, right?
cut it out of the tape?
I put it on the video.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Gotta have that tape border and then still have some paper left over so you can cut that out and get a clean border.
Oh, okay.
This looks to
Sorry
me
about that.
really close. So the only thing I could say is maybe get a thinner tape.
Okay. Yeah, because I just I guess I messed up. I just did the inch border and then
Again,
so
look, on this first one, I'm not going to get as hard ass about it, okay? But I do want a border on it.
okay.
So this right here is what I keep in my sketch bag. See how thin that is?
Yes.
This is probably a ½ inch. And then what I usually use is an inch. When I'm on location, I use this because this eats up less room in my sketchbook because I usually tape it off in my sketchbook. Okay, so make sure that you put a tape border around there, nice, straight, and clean, and then we can cut that off. Just make it ½ inch or whatever fits.
Got it.
Okay. Okay, any questions?
No, I don't think so. It's just I guess I'm worried about trying to do the water and make it look nicely because I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to do the reflections of the trees right there and everything.
Reflections are, and I'm going to have to do this in a weird way, but reflections are sort of, let me see if I can do this real quick. Okay, so you already have like a value right here, okay?
Yeah.
So that should help you a little bit. I'm going to switch cameras again. I might do part of this digitally, but blah, blah, blah. What am I doing? Oh yeah. Come on. Oh, you guys got my, okay. You've got a tree here. The one thing I might be careful of is doing that hard line around it. So let's say the water's here, and then this is going into a reflection. So let's just go, I'm going to mix a brown. Make sure you mix your brown. So if this is a warm environment, I might do a warmer brown wash. So let's just do that real simple. I'm trying to mix these as simply as I can. So I'm going to I'll take some regular red. I don't want a cool red for this. Probably this green maybe.
Hold on to it.
And I'm going to knock it down. Yeah, that's pretty good. See that nice brown I just got? Right?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so now I'm going to go in here. And I'm doing this in a real rudimentary way. I would never do it this way, but. And I'd probably come in here with my rigger brush. Pull some branches out of that. To make it a little more interesting. If it's a real, I don't know, swampy environment, I might even flood a little ochre maybe in there or something. A little orange. I know it's probably hard to see that. And then I'd probably let it dry at some point. See, I'm pulling branches and things out of the wash, right?
Yes.
Now I'm just going to do a simple thing. I'm going to knock this wash way down. And it should probably adjust the color, but I'm not going to worry about it. What I could do is I could have put the water in first, but I'm just going to see if I can get it to do. Okay, so we're starting to put in the reflection. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so let's let that dry for a second. What are you laughing about, Susie?
Oh, I was muted. But hey, what you used a red, a warm red, you said, and a green to mix that brown.
I used a warm red and I think a sap green, which is warm.
Okay.
And it gave me a nice. Did you see it? It gave me a nice warm brown, right?
Yeah, yeah, it was beautiful.
Boom, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if it was the environment up here, I'd probably start with my dioxazine purple and I'd put a little yellow in it, and then I'd get more of a purpley brown. Okay, so now I'm managing, because people will go, well, it's just mud. It's like, no, it's not just mud, because the temperature matters, and and why, and then in this environment or in any environment, it matters because what I'm thinking of is I probably already blocked in the background of that illustration by the time I do this. So what I'm thinking is, okay, what's this environment? Okay, the environment's very flooded with a lot of warm light, and these trees are getting affected by that. Even up here, I always say they're purple, but like towards the end of the day when the sky starts getting warm and sunsetty, then the trunks of the trees will go more this color, right? And then there's a part going up the hill. If you go out here and go up towards Running Springs, there's this little curve when there's a nice sunsetty thing, and that whole side of the hillside just lights up on fire. It's really beautiful, right? But the rest of the day, it's all very cool and purple, you know? So it's so much about, you got to think about more than just the light. This is kind of where people don't get into this enough. You got to think about what's bouncing around in that area, okay? So if I've got a lot of light colored rocks and it's sunset, and like I'm just saying, it's a very lit environment, really warm, well, what's it going to do? I got these light rocks. Number one, they're going to go, you know, if they're granite or something, or maybe parts of the day they're bluish. Now they're not bluish anymore. And then that really sunsetty light is bouncing off the ground and bouncing up into stuff. So now I got an excuse to light my environment based on sort of what I was saying about the bear, where I'm going, I want to bounce some light up into the bottom of him. I'm doing all that stuff. So it becomes much more interesting as an illustration, and much more interesting to break up all those browns and everything, because like in that environment, you're looking for, how can I push temperature and color and all that kind of stuff, right? Because that's what really, to me, makes it sing, is the understanding of light and color and all that sort of thing, and bouncing it around and really thinking about temperature and stuff like that. There's a lot of books you can go look at. I mean, children's books are really interesting, because if you go to the section of Barnes and Noble, you'll find books that you're like, wow, these are just unbelievable. Man, I'm going to try something real quick here. I just thought of something. Yeah, it's too dry already. Some of them are amazing. And then you'll see a lot of them that are like bestsellers that are the opposite of amazing. Okay? And there was, it's true of anything. Although I will say, just in general, book design, just in general, like book covers and things like that, not just necessarily children's books, but if you go to a bookstore, it's probably one of the most consistently well-designed shops you can go to and look and see consistently well-designed things. Does that make sense? Especially cookbooks, man. Go look at cookbooks. They're just beautifully designed, beautifully photographed, great typography, great covers, great vibe, you know, and there's just a million books. They've got great design. But and then there's one I was watching, it was a bestseller, and it had something to do with raccoons. I want to buy it just because it's an interesting, it's just like this. I don't think it's illustrated very well. It looks very ham-fisted. And it was sort of like that when I was looking at it, I'm going, this person doesn't really know how to illustrate. They don't know how to, the color's really dull, and it's sort of the same. And it's just not, the brushwork's terrible. It's just a very amateurish. And it was a bestseller. You know what I mean? It was a good example of illustration to me that was not interesting at all. You know what I mean? And I don't usually like digital illustration. But now or digital illustration for children's books. I don't mind digital illustration. But, you know, I've got 2 of them now that I bought that I think are really good, you know? I mean, I would never do one. I should say I never would, but I probably wouldn't do one digitally. It's just not makes sense to me for whatever reason. But in relation to this, we're talking about how that environment's lit. And so a lot of times while I'm drawing it, I'm thinking about that. I'm going, oh, okay, fall day. Okay, I can get a lot of color with that. Or spring day, you know, the light's coming in up here, you know. Okay, so light up, you know, really have that sun hitting that grass and dirt under his feet, so I can put some warm orangey and some really screaming greens in there and then bounce them all over the place, you know. It's got all those leaves up here. That's like colored gels, right? I can hit them with some of that color. You know, on and on and on. And then I go, okay, in the background, I'm going to wash this whole cabin into a purpley gray, so it'll sit behind him and he'll be a warm gray. Like I'm totally managing all those temperatures. Does that make sense? Especially in an environment like that where it's like, it'd be very easy for that whole environment to become brown and green, you know? So then you go, okay, what color can I make the tree? I mean, I can make the tree all sorts of colors. Sometimes up here, some of the trees up here are screaming blue, like some of the pines are really, really blue, especially when they're sitting next to a warm pine. So it's like all that stuff I'm trying to pull into this. I'm trying to manage, and I think the thing that doesn't get talked about enough is managing temperature. Like that's so important, okay? All right, I think this is almost dry. No, it's not. All right, I'm waiting for it to dry. I'll go back to it. So let's go. Where's David?
I'm right here.
There's a lot of stuff that's confusing in this.
Okay.
But we're kind of into it. Like, I think these 2 figures should have been developed a lot more. I think these guys need to be developed more. They're just not quite defined yet. Like, what's this guy?
I can't tell who you're looking at.
Oh.
You're not sharing your screen.
Sorry. What do I got on? Do I have my other camera on?
Yeah,
oh,
just
no, it's me. It's just me, right?
Yeah.
Unlucky you guys. Okay, hang on. Oh, it's just me. Okay. These 3 guys right here. Like, what's this guy right here?
I was thinking of like an upper class businessman type person. Something like that.
It feels to me like he's wearing a mask right here.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought I'd give him a sort of oddly shaped head or so on, sort of play around with it a little bit rather than just, you know, give him a typical structured head.
But then it doesn't read as easily. You know what I mean? This stuff is getting very geometric. This in here is getting very geometric. I mean, if you want to do it as a geometric statement, that's one thing. And then this guy, I mean, you got to, and then how are you going to handle all this smoke and all this stuff?
What do you mean by handle? Like as in the color and the paint and so on? Or what do you mean exactly?
Technique.
I'm not quite sure yet. I was hoping I'd figure out by playing around in my sketchbook.
That's probably going to be a wet to wet thing. That's going to be tricky, man. And then how are you going to light it? Is this what's down in this crevice right here?
It's sort of just a gorge, so it's just sort of a deep, dark pit and so on.
So where's the light coming from in here?
I'm thinking it's going to come from sort of like behind the trail that's behind them. The only thing is though, is that'll be a completely like backlit thing. So I'm not sure if that'll be a good way of sort of lighting the whole thing.
Well, what you could do, because I mean, it's really far away from, and then this also, if I put the gutter line in here, he's right in the gutter. So your main guy is right sitting in the gutter. Okay. Yeah. But that splits the illustration in half. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I get that. It's just that I think I don't know why. I remember when I measured this, I thought I put him like an inch off to the right side of the gutter. So maybe it's just a picture, but or maybe I can measure it again or double check it or something.
Don't change it.
But I thought,
Don't change it.
oh, okay.
But you got to have some sort of lighting in here. I mean, if you're going to have this fantastic an environment, it's got to have fantastic lighting, right? So, like, if it was me, I'd probably put something warm coming out of this gorge. Then I could bottom light this, and I can bottom light all these, all this smoke, and then I could maybe have a reddish, orangey background, or you know, and then the tops of these could get, you know, I could do a warm, cool thing with the smoke. Like all this down here, I'd probably like flood with whatever kind of color I'm going to have, and then I'd probably throw some salt in that and get some texture on it.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. Because I was thinking about that too, but I just wasn't quite confident about where to go with it. So, but I think.
Well, have you done any color comps?
Not yet, just because I wasn't quite sure about the drawing yet, and I think I already emailed you about it that I wasn't quite sure about how the final drawing was. So I was a little hesitant on the color comps. So at this point, I'm about as far as I've laid out what color comps I want to play with, but I have yet to actually get to my sketchbook and play around it. I have the paint, I have everything. I just gotta do it.
Okay, just get in there, start doing some color comps.
All right.
Okay.
Let's go with me. Are you gonna have another like half week session?
I might do it tomorrow.
Tomorrow? Okay.
And then I'll do another one next week, but I might do one tomorrow.
Okay, because I can come back to you and show you what I've come up with and so on.
Yeah. But for sure, I'm going to do, okay, so all my classes right now, except for one, actually they are two now that I think about it. Everybody's sort of going towards a finish of something, okay? So what I'm basically doing in these classes right now is I'm sort of going, okay, come in, let's answer questions and all that kind of stuff. Then I let you guys go and I go work. You know what I mean? Because now we're heading towards finish. You know, and answer things like we're answering right now. What was I going to say? So anyway, that's what I'm doing. So, and so what I'm saying is, like when especially with classes where I'm only seeing you guys once a week, right now I'm going to try and do 1 to 2 open discussion things per week. And I'm probably always going to do that when we're starting to head towards final. I'm going to try and do that. That way I'm getting more contact with you guys because I don't want to lose contact for an entire week on something this complicated.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that everybody's, you know, everybody's good.
Yeah, okay. Especially since for a lot of us, this is our first time doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
so.
and I'm worried about it.
There's bound to be.
And I'm very aware that this is like, when you first do it, it's kind of intimidating. It's very process heavy. It's really, I mean, I guess it is, but I'm somebody that likes process, so I don't think that really bothers me. Let's see if this is dry yet. No? Hang on, let me put this outside real quick so it'll dry faster. Hang on, I'm going to grab a cup of coffee. Okay, I think it's dry enough. Okay, does that make sense, David?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah.
So this one, where'd Susie go? I was gonna show her something. Huh. Hang on a sec, you guys. Okay, so let me flip this. Hey, Camille.
Yes.
Oh, my screen doesn't, or I guess it is showing everybody, but it's not. Oh, there's Susie. I see her. Okay. Okay. Let's try this. Let me stop my share. And let me go. By the way, you guys, I have to figure out whether it's pinned or unpinned when I do these demos, that it's big on the screen when it zooms back, when Zoom records it. I think it's unpinned, but if they're not big on this next one, then I'll know that it's pinned, okay? Okay, so let's go here. So I'm not gonna worry too much about my mix here. I just want a value, maybe I will. Because I'd have to know what kind of water this is and all that. So let's just say. Say that it's sunny back here. And my shoreline might be back here. Mix up a yellow. I'm gonna mix up a green. We'll grab my dots. You guys see how we're starting to get a water effect already here,
Yes.
right? Because why? Because we have this sitting under the water now. We'll do one more thing on this. And I'll just do it real ham-fisted, but. So let's say maybe back here. I mean, this could be a bunch of different colors. I'm gonna mix up green. I don't want this green to be all that strong. And I might knock it back. It might be too much. It just depends on what the environment is. It could even be blue. But back here, you know, I could put a line of, I don't know, foliage, things like that. And all I'm doing here is just blocking in my silhouette. That's not going to be my final. I'm going to take some of this brown that I already have and put it along the shoreline. And I'm just mixing this stuff wet into wet. And I'll put let's put another little land mass or something right here. And again, I could come in here while it's still wet and start pulling things out of this. Start to suggest some sort of foliage and things. Sometimes I take my messed up brushes like this one. Maybe I'll take a little more of that green. I'm going to take some more green. And by the way, this could get, let's put this, I got it too far out. Hang on. I could take a cooler value in here of all this and reflect this into the water too, which I probably would. And then where it's darker down here, I might have to wait for it to dry. Where it's darker down here, it starts before it goes in the water. I want to get a little darker where the edge is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that looks good.
I mean, this should actually be over here and blah, 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 but I'm doing it off the cuff. So. And then I'm going to put a little bit of stuff in here. And again, I'd probably start suggesting some things in here. Whatever. I want some neutrals in there. This would probably come around. Whatever. Okay, so let's see. It's got to dry a little more. I'm going to put a little more. Maybe there's a little green in there. I want a dirty green. Maybe this may or may not work. Let me try this. I could probably get some green in there. Yeah, that's all. Now, why does the green work in there?
What do you mean?
We're going to call you when we come there.
The water, a lot of times in this kind of environment, it'll go a little bluish in certain spots and greenish in other spots. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What the hell do I have?
So we're going to wait. We're going to wait there. That's what you're saying.
There it is. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so I gotta let that dry, and I'm gonna try one more thing. I'm gonna put this outside again for a second. All right. I'm just going to do this with some pure white. I don't know. I wouldn't normally do that. Well, maybe I'll mix it. I don't know. Okay, so I'm going to use a little bit of Winsor Newton white gouache. That's what I like. You see that, Susie? Okay, let's give that a second. Is this making sense?
Yes. The techniques you showed me were good, and I get it.
Okay. Because I know this stuff, you know, it's complicated, but when you break it down, you can see it's not really. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, again, it is fundamental core. It's not. I get that, like, understanding it's weird and all that. By the way, that drawing board I have right here, did I tell you guys they had those at Art Supply Warehouse for $5? This drawing, you can't see it right now. It's a really nice drawing board. It's a nice size. And it has the metal edges, which is important if you wanted to T-squared or whatever. These things are like $40. They had them for $5. And they even have big ones for $5. I think they were all the same price. It was super weird. Like they're expensive. The big ones are like 60. It's a really nice surface. It's like a soft surface. Okay, so any questions so far about what we're doing with this water thing? Everybody's good? Where's Jenny? Or Janice, I'm sorry.
I'm here.
Okay, your drawing looks pretty good. Have we got the color comps figured out?
Yeah, I didn't send them in. Sorry.
That's okay. As long as they're working for you, it's fine. But does it feels right? No big questions? You feel good about it?
Yeah.
Okay. We're gonna do the warm, cool thing, all that?
Mhm.
Okay, good. You really improved your drawing. It looks like you improved it even more here. Like with this, I'm not sharing my screen, right?
Yeah.
As usual. Like here, like this little indication of fur.
Mhm.
Like that's nice. It looks like you added that. I don't remember that being in there.
Yeah.
Looks like you worked out this little mouse pretty nice. Good. I think you did a great job on the clown car. Did you base that on Camille's car? Because she drives a car just like that. You know that?
I didn't know that.
Except when she pulls up to the school, like 40 Camille's get out of it. You know, like walking around all crazy. I don't know why I think that's so funny. Anyway, okay, so you're good, right?
Mhm.
Let's see. Oops. What kind of tape is that? Who is this? This is Jenny. Jenny,
Yes.
what kind of tape is that?
It's a tape I had lying around. I don't know what it's called.
It's not Scotch tape, is it?
No.
Because that doesn't look like that's going to hold up underwater. Is that an art tape? What is that? You don't know?
No, I'm not sure.
You better be careful with that because that's probably just going to lift. And even if it doesn't, if it's sort of a Scotch tapey kind of thing, it's going to tear all your paper up.
Okay.
So that's dangerous. It looks like you've improved him. I'd get him a little more. He feels like he's floating. Now, okay, so you're doing a more patterny, flat perspective thing. What you could do, is that intentional?
I guess in a sense.
Okay. Like this stuff, I do more with this with the paint because like these marks aren't really telling me anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So but you can play with that with the paint. The only problem with that is then when you're not familiar with paint, you start to design things and you're not used to design. You're not that comfortable with paint yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I did like paint like with like leaves with watercolor before.
Okay.
Like on trees.
Okay. If you have a technique, that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
How much watercolor have you done?
I've been doing watercolor for like maybe like around 2 years. It's been a while now, but I had a private tutor that taught me watercolor.
Wow, private tutor?
Yeah.
That's fancy. Okay, so you got a little bit of confidence on the color side, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so whatever you start to have problems with, do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
Okay. Leonie, I think I already looked at. Ooh, here we go. Oh, by the way, I found this stuff I want to show you guys. Let me go grab that thing. Look at this. Because the last one we just looked at was reminding me of this. Hang on. Oh, I found it. No, that's not it. Here we go. Look at these. That's gouache. Okay. You can do the same thing with watercolor, but I just thought they were nice styling and nice color. Does that make sense? Look at the trees. So what the reason I was thinking of this is see this like simple patterning on the trees, that kind of thing. You guys? Yeah?
Mm-hmm. Mike,
Yeah.
who's the artist?
Sue Mont, M-O-N-D-T.
Thank you.
I just landed on her. She popped up on Twitter. I've been finding all this great stuff on Twitter lately for some reason. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, it's really nice.
Look at these. I mean, it's just really nice. Really nice design, really well executed, obviously. Look at that. That's great. Look at the simplicity of this tree. So the reason, again, I'm saying this is like we're just looking at the one with the patterning in it. That's kind of what's going on here. She's not worried about, you know, this, you know, obviously this isn't in perspective or anything, but it looks cool. Does that make sense?
There's some flamingos. There are flamingos there too.
Yeah, right there. Very simple.
In the mountains.
Yeah, all this. Look, and this back here, look, that's just a dry brush stroke. See that?
Oh yeah.
So put down a light value or vice versa. It looks to me like you put down a light value, and then you just took a dry brush with a little darker value and went right over it. Right over it. She does that a lot. If you notice here, look, like these dry brush strokes, those are all dry brush. All this stuff. Look at that's dry brush. You can really see those brushes that they do digitally, how they're emulating this. Like I see this all the time with digital brushes. But it says here this is gouache. It does look like gouache. Look, it's just dry brush all over the place. See that? Right?
So is the dry brush on top or
Yeah.
underneath? I didn't
I
hear.
mean, you could do
Okay, it's on
dry
top.
brush. This is gouache, so it's a little different. So, and we're gonna do gouache. It's a little different because if I put, you know, I'm probably gonna put down a little thicker paint for the dry brush. In watercolor, it's not gonna matter because it's not really gonna lift. But in gouache, if I put down a little thicker paint and then like I go, I want to wash over that. Now it'll reactivate all that underneath. So I got to do it sort of towards the end.
Okay.
Or it's my last pass on the top of that section, if that makes any sense. Okay, let me grab my coffee and then I'll go over the last of this water thing. Hang on. All right, guys, let's switch over the camera. Hang on. Wait, let's look at these real quick. Where are you at? Where is it Deborah?
It's Deborah. Yeah. I did a light and dark, and then I just did one mostly warm and the other one cool colors. The black and white's marker and the other two are watercolor.
Yeah, it's exactly what I want you doing. And then look how cool it looks with these vignetted edges. Sometimes that looks cool, you know what I mean?
I haven't done my sketch on paper because I don't know if I should do the sepia or something darker brown because everything's so little. You know, the characters are little.
Make sure they're not too little.
Well, I filled the 11 by 17, but they're still kind of small, and I'm afraid if I do sepia, I might lose important lines. So
wait. Why would it lose it? Because it's sepia.
Well, I just thought, do I need to go darker, a dark brown?
I wouldn't. I don't think it's about how dark the drawing is, because then it's going to become a coloring book.
Oh, okay. I don't want that. Okay.
You don't have to use a sepia pencil or brown pencil. You could use graphite or whatever. It's fine.
I wanted.
And I don't know if you guys are noticing this in the video I put up. Hopefully, you're noticing how that brown is sort of marrying to the colors underneath it, and it's not really sticking out that much anymore. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. I think the cool is going to be your. There's things. Where's this light back here coming from?
That's the moonlight.
Oh, okay.
That's a pretty big moon.
I'd make sure that's not competing with the, all the light up here. Like knock that moon down a little bit,
Okay.
Like maybe maybe it's like what I might do is I might wash the. I'll show you in a minute.
Okay.
Let me go through this other one and then I'll talk about that real quick. I like to get. I don't even know if I can find this. I'll look for it in a minute. Okay, so switch cameras again.
Yes.
Oops, I don't want that over there. Let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of this. And this. Why is that not going on? Oops. Switch cameras. Where was my? Oh, there it is. Let's stop this. Okay, so we're back to this, okay? So we're starting to get a little water action, right? Yes, no?
Yes.
And that's making sense how that's working, right? So what have we done? We put this over this, which is starting to set it back, right?
Yeah.
So now let's get something else in front of it. I'm going to mix up, I don't know. Let's see how this looks. And I want to turn this so I can do this right. You can see why you stretch your paper now, right? See how that's buckling and stuff? Right?
Yeah.
You don't want that on a finish. This will probably work. So this can have, let's say that this, let's do another thing right here. So I lost some of my nice trunks that were going in here, so I want to reinforce that. I know that's sloppy, but oh well. And then I'm going to go maybe here. It's a little heavy. I'm going to go a little lighter. This has got to be dry for me to do this. Okay, so now we start getting ripples over. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay, now see how once you put something over the reflection, it starts looking even more reflective? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Now we got something dancing on the surface in front of that, which is going to tell the viewer that that's a reflection, right? I think I go a little darker here. I'm going to try and go a little darker so you can see it better. And also, I don't mind it breaking up a little bit like that. And then maybe even, I don't like this one. So that's fine, I just take it out. Maybe it needs to come from out here. Maybe I'll just do something like that. Okay, so now we've put something in front of it and it's starting to get a little more reflective, okay? So now I'm going to take a little of this. And I'm going to say that maybe there's some blue up here in the sky. And I'm going to put my gouache right here. I'm not going to put out very much because whatever I don't use is going to dry up and it becomes kind of useless. I'm just going to take sort of a purish blue. So now I got a little bit of blue mixed into that, correct? Now I got to be really careful here adding water to this or I'll lose its opacity. So I do this a lot. Look. I'll put this on the edge of the brush thing and I'll just barely touch it. Okay? To loosen up the paint a little bit, but I don't want too much because once I go too much then the gouache becomes ineffective. And then I might come in here and go, let's see if this even works. It needs a little more, it needs more white. Really, the background needs to be a little darker. That's really the problem. Now I'd give it a little highlight. Same idea. You can probably barely see that. Can you guys see that? Or is that hard to see? You see that little bluish thing, right?
Yes.
So it's pretty lightened up. And what does that do? I'm using it also to break my, could probably even do it all the way down to there if I wanted, but I'd have to follow the little thing. I'm going to go really heavy right now. Now, I don't usually ever go with a pure white, but I'm just going to do it for the sake of speed. And here and there, I might give it a little specularity. A little dot, dot, dot. A little bit in front of that reflection. And see how that's starting to sit in front of it now? Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay. So it's basically obviously you have a big shape reflected into the water. And then I'm putting that little darker ripple around it, and then I'm giving it like a little highlight here and there over it, and then I'll do a couple of specular highlights and I'm out. And the reason that's working is because I have a shape under here. And as I start passing things over it, it starts to sit back and look reflective. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, and it works with almost anything. As we keep moving into this, we'll talk about it more, but works with reflections in glass. It works with all that kind of stuff. Okay. Now look at this. I want to talk about this real quick. Wait, let's look at it right here. These, you guys see that? Yeah?
Yeah.
Those are natural sea sponges, okay? You can get them anywhere. You can get them at Michael's, anything. You don't have to get these, by the way. But you see how they're irregular?
Yes.
So like if I said this back here, if I said this thing back here was a rock, let's say it's a rock, and now I go, I want to get a little bit of texture on it, especially if they're up close, I'll do this. This will go, I'm going to wet it a little bit, see if I can get some paint on it. See that nice natural mark it'll make?
Yeah.
Okay, so I might take these, and they're all different. Let's try this other one. I'm dying to try this one. I might take, you know, sometimes I'll tear them up into smaller pieces. Let's try this. Let's get them warm. And see how that'll give it start to give it a nice texture? That little rock back there. See that? Does that make sense? I could use it. Doesn't have to be a rock. I could use it for anything. I could come back in here and start going, well, maybe I want to put a line of it's going to be the wrong color, but maybe I just want to start indicating some general stuff back there that's just silhouetted, whatever you call it, foliage, and stuff like that, right?
That's cool.
Get you a really nice start on a bush or something like that, right? Now, the thing with all this stuff is you got to know how to manage it, because if you don't manage it correctly, it becomes hobby painting, okay? And by the way, I do the same thing with this. If I don't have that, I'll roll this up, right? And use that to make texture. If I don't have a sea sponge with me, I'll just use a napkin or whatever, okay? It's really also really good if I I wash in, like let's say we're washing in a stone fence, and I modulate that all wet into wet before I ever, put any single stones in it. And then I go in, let that dry, and then I go in and start hitting it with texture just randomly. And then I go in and start delineating each individual rock, and it's gonna look all textured and cool looking. Does that make sense? Big to small, right? All right, that's a lot of stuff. Any questions on this stuff?
No, you covered what I asked before.
Okay, good. Susie?
I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
And what all these things are, by the way, what I was going to say is things like salt, things like the plastic wrap thing, things like, we talked about plastic wrap last time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All those things are great. They're making noise. They're making very, especially like the sea sponge thing, it's making very random marks, which I want for things like background texture and stuff, or texture on a rock. Like I might have a rock in the foreground, like let's say a granite rock, right? And then I might go in, I might build up a little bit of texture on it, but the last bit of texture I do might be like a fairly screamy green color that I'll just sort of dab on that texture, and it'll start to look like lichen on the surface of the rock. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you got to think about how you're attacking this. And the thing I always say about painting and drawing it's not what you think. Like before you start doing this, it's not what you think. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's like when you're, at least when I was younger and I was looking at this stuff, I just thought everything was about somebody, you know, really, you know, going in there making all these marks. They're not. A lot of them are random. Then you're painting back into it, and you know what I mean, and doing this balance of organic mark making and very specific mark making. It's not all super specific mark making. Now, some people work that way, and that's fine. But it's and then what I want to say too is like these things like the sponges or salt or it's make sure that you're using it in a smart organic way, otherwise it becomes gimmicky. If you start using these sea sponges things, like I don't even know what they sell them for at Michael's, but I'm guessing it's faux painting. And if this stuff starts looking like faux painting, not so great. Right? What I want it to look like is just like you don't even notice how I did it. I like it when people look at it and they think that's all brushwork that I thought about, and it's like, no, it isn't. And most of the paintings that I find beautiful and everything that I used to think that about, now I look at them and I go, half of this stuff is super random-y. It's controlled, but it's random, if that makes sense. That's what gives it a sense of naturalness. Okay.
Yeah, it leaves a little bit of mystery.
It's what?
It leaves a little mystery.
Yeah. And it also, I don't want your brain has this probably, you know, I mean, I think you learned, and that's why I'm talking about this. I think you start learning how to get away from it. But your brain, when you're starting this stuff, has this tendency to be very overthinky and very, you know, oh, I gotta, you know, and it's not about that. It's really about, no matter how tight you want this stuff to go, it's about going in and again, knowing your paint handling, knowing your materials, knowing how to create these shapes and everything you're trying to create. You know, eventually it'll go down some path and that'll be your style, and that's fine. But it's just, it's not, again, it's not what you, it's not all this, you know, rendering and, you know, the mistake you see all the time with beginning painters and illustrators and all that is they're obsessed with blending everything. Okay. Oh, I'm going to blend. Every time you look at a bad drawing or something they're doing, they go, oh, I'm going to blend that out. And it's like the entire thing is blended out. Like, why do you want to blend it out more? Like every shape on this is soft and it just looks weird. It looks like cotton candy or something. Because they don't understand hard and soft edges. They don't understand more sophisticated mark making, which is what we're really talking about here, is more sophisticated mark making, okay? And having a methodology to like, and by the way, like with that thing with water, it's not about water. It's about the idea of reflection. And what makes something look reflective, a very simple way, is you're putting something behind something in a very simple way. And then when you put something, like it could be a window, and then I put the window frames over it, and all of a sudden that'll sit back and look reflective, because it's the same thing as this. The ripples are cutting the ripples are cutting through the reflection. The reflection fades out. And it's the same thing on a window, only instead of putting ripples in front of it, I'm putting window frames in front of it. Does that make sense? But it's the same idea. And what I want you guys to start understanding with that kind of stuff is hopefully you'll start knowing how to solve your own problems that way. We'll go, oh, this is just, it's reflection. And the thing I can put in front of it to make it look reflective is, you know, the window frame or this or this. Or maybe I have a trash can sitting in front of a window with no window frames, and I reflect the trash can into the window, right? So now I've got something, you know, that's repeating into the window in a silhouetted, you know, reduced color way. And it's telling the viewer like, oh, that's reflecting into that reflective surface. Does that make sense? So you know, you need these tools of placement and things in front and things behind, whatever it is, you need these tools to support everything. And when you're doing a painting or an illustration or whatever, every element in that thing's got to lock together to make everything else work. So where people make mistakes is they go, oh, I want a reflective this or that. And it's like, well, there's nothing to reflect into it. You know what I mean? So, okay, you can give me some gradations and maybe a specular highlight or something, but if you give me something that reflects into it, it's going to sell it. Does that make sense? So I'm thinking about that from a design perspective, okay? Because all this is design, painting, drawing, whatever, it's all design. Does that make sense? Susie? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Good. Okay, so this one, wait, I'm not sharing my screen. And I know I'm not sharing my screen. Oh, wait. Am I sharing my screen? No, I'm not.
No.
Now you are.
You could do a highlight reel of me doing just old man, don't know what I'm doing stuff. Right? Am I sharing my screen? Am I? Okay, probably the cooler one's going to be more your friend in this, right?
Okay.
Where you at?
I'm here.
Okay. I like this. You got a warm idea going on here. Now, make sure that, and I get that this is just a it's a comp. I get it.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find this thing. I know it's way old, but it has something that's similar in this idea. I hate finding stuff on here. Is there a way to go all the way to the bottom of your Instagram thing instantly?
I don't know.
Because I have one in watercolor that's similar to this idea. Oh, wait, I bet I know where it is. Because I think you're getting it for sure. Hang on. I don't have a great picture of it. But this is sort of a similar thing, correct?
Yeah.
So we got this cool from the, on the back end, and then all this warm on the front end. And then I put this in front of the moon like that so it would silhouette it, right? Does that make sense?
Okay.
I mean, you don't have to do that. But you've got trees, so you might do the trees in front of it. I think I did this wet into wet so it got that soft edge, that moon edge. Right? You there?
Yeah. Yeah. So the moon is there's not a lot of warmth in it, and then the characters are getting the warm light from the
I really wanted to really push this really cool idea against this really warm idea. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I like that.
And it simplifies it. And then if you look at the trees back here, they're all just silhouettes. Right?
All right. Yeah.
And what you can do is you can just go, but where your moon is really lightly, so there's barely, so the pencil line will disappear. And then what I might do is wash the whole thing with my passive blue and let that dry, and then start to, or even start building, or let it kind of dry a little, and then start flooding the darker value around the blue while it's still a little bit damp, but leave that one part, just that first blue, right? So it's a lighter shade of the darker blue I'm going to put around it, and just build the darker color around it. Does that make sense?
Are you looking at the sketch? Because I see your desktop.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, I see it.
Yeah, so I would flood like this. So let's say, where the hell's my thing? There it is. Let's say that I got my little, I wouldn't do this with this pencil, but I put that so you couldn't even see it. So I got a little circle there. And then I would probably take, I'm just going to use a blue. I'm not going to modulate it or anything. And just go, this is going to be my lightest pass right here. Depending on how light I want that moon to be. I want a little more, I'll do it like that. Paint right up to that edge.
Oh, okay.
And then while it's still wet, I'd probably come in here with my darker value. I'd really just start building it. Might even so it's starting to be a moon.
Mm-hmm. It's popping
What's
out.
nice is see how the edges are soft. And then what I could also do is start as I'm doing this. You can get a clean brush and start pulling out a little bit of the. Might even be able to take it out with this. Pull some of that value out around it and start to create a little bit of a glow around it. Or I could even come in around it again out here more. That's actually working better. Come out here more. Start darkening the sky as it goes out away from it. And then blend that out. And I actually like it when it's got some brush work in it. That's just me. You might not like that. That's fine. And then I can even get a little bit of these moon shapes in here, just the wet into wet. It's really hard to see it. But those little dark shapes inside the moon. So they're starting to be in there?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It looks really desaturated on camera. It's actually not that desaturated. And then let's do one more thing. I'm gonna come in here with a small brush. Still pulling some out a little bit. Starting to dry up on me, so. And also I could come back in here while this is wet and go, I'm going to pull out a couple of clouds in here. You can just paint them in, you can pull them out, however you like to do it.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool. I was just gonna make a hard-lined moon. I like that look.
So here, and I can still go in and soften up these edges. That's a little different thing. But let's put this outside and let it dry for 2 seconds. Hang on, I'm gonna go get it in a sec.
I have a question about the shadows and the trees in the background. No, he's not there.
He'll come back.
Okay.
I mean, I hope he comes back.
Oh, I'm sure he will.
Could you imagine if he just like fell asleep and
No, he
totally
just
left
left
us here?
He went to get some lunch. He's gonna come back like in 2 hours. I'm kidding. So was everyone able to transfer their drawing, or?
Yeah, even though he didn't seem to like mine that much, even after I transferred it.
I wasn't able to transfer mine simply because I don't have this material.
Yeah.
So
I about this earlier.
it's because like my local like Michael's store, like they have watercolor, but it's not the size I need. They have only like the super tiny like watercolor, like the like 5 by, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I know what you mean.
wait. Michael's has bigger watercolor sets.
Yeah, I know, but like I was saying, like the times I've been going there, they don't have any like of the big ones, and I'm like,
Where do you live at?
I live in El Centro. It's a very small.
Where's El Centro at?
It's like 2 hours from San Diego and an hour away from Yuma. It's like this really small.
Wow, you're out in San Diego?
Well, 2 hours away from it.
Wow. Are you usually on campus, or are you just doing it now because you can do it remotely?
No, I'm doing it now because I could do it remotely. Like,
that's interesting.
Yeah, if I wanted to go where you go, like that's why I'm kind of behind, because I'm trying to get the materials, and like I have to go super far if I need to get like
make a list, make one trip, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I just looked it up. You are nowhere near Art Supply Warehouse. You are like not even close.
You know what though? In San Diego, there's a great art supply store. I think it's a Blick.
Oh yeah, Blick. I went there like 2 weeks ago, and I got some of the stuff I needed.
So did you? Okay, so why did you decide to come to Fullerton?
Because like literally the school, like, because I'm going to a community college right now. It's called IVC. It's Imperial Valley College. They don't have any of the cool art stuff that I want to do.
No, I get it.
There's like nothing here, so that's why like I have to go abroad in order to like actually,
I get it.
do stuff.
Most of them, I got to be honest, like most of them, they don't. I mean, none of them have this kind of program.
Yeah. Which is why I'm so lucky. Which is kind of why I'm glad this quarantine happened, because it allows me to do this online instead of having to drive like 3 hours once a week to
How did you find out about Fullerton?
I was just searching up a bunch of art schools and like trying to see if there was just any chance that I could do something, like anything.
Well, we're gonna make a big push after this thing, and we were already talking about it anyway. But we're gonna make a big push now to make sure that our classes are all hybrid, so we teach them online and in the classroom.
Oh.
It's. I mean, the only reason it hadn't been done before really is it was just a lot of work and all this kind of stuff. But now we've got it all wired, so we're just like, there's no reason why we should. And then my setup that I have now, which I'll take back to the classroom when we go back on campus, I can film every demo I'm doing in the classroom, which I'm going to do anyway, so I can put those online or whatever for the class. But it'll also allow me to do that class in a hybrid way and do it remotely also. Okay. Okay, good. All right. So let me see if this thing's, hopefully it's dry. Hang on. Usually it doesn't take, it takes a second. It's a little bit cool in here.
So yeah, that's my situation.
It's dry enough. So look, I could come in here and just give it a kiss. If you wanted to, you don't have to. Let's try this. I'm gonna get a little yellow ochre, really thin down. So if I wanted to have a warm moon, that's going to dry back. But if I wanted to have a warm moon, I could kind of do something like that. And this is going to dry a lot lighter than it looks.
Okay.
I could even take it out a little bit. And now I've got a little kiss of warmth on it, but not crazy. Does that make sense?
It does.
So this
What blue was that you used?
For this?
Yeah.
I think it's cobalt.
Okay.
And sometimes with this, and then I probably, actually I think that's just pure cobalt. Once in a while with sky colors, I'll use like a phthalo and sort of out of the tube, but very watered down. If I want a really, really blue sky, like on that bear one that I put up for you guys. I think I used a phthalo, which is a real, I always call those electric colors, like phthalo, magenta, like magenta, what else? I don't know, there's just, you know, obviously brilliant orange, but like phthalo is electric, right? Like if I'm gonna do a neon sign at night or something, I might go to the phthalo if it's bluish and add a little white to it, and it's just gonna, it's a really screaming electric blue, right? Or quinacridone is a warm version of it. So quinacridone is just electric. It's like an electric magenta. I think those are the only two like specialty colors I'll add usually. I don't, and then there's phthalo green, but I mean I don't really need those, but you know I like to add a few colors onto my palette sometimes because I get tired of, I don't know, I just have a weird way of compartmentalizing things in my head. Sometimes I like to try and break out of it. You know what I mean? So like when I'm doing those jazz paintings and stuff, I'll put quinacridone on there because stage lighting is so hot, you know. So if I have some quinacridone, some brilliant orange, I can hit those really hot stage lights a little better, you know. But I don't usually, you know. And by the way, I just so happen to have phthalo on this palette because this palette is this one I'm using right now is because I have like 3 or 4. Is more. I think it's a bunch of paints I'm trying to get rid of that I've had literally forever, for like 20 years. I don't even know where they came from. I think they're Da Vinci, and I don't really like them that much, so I use them on this palette. And they're okay, but they're not super vibrant like those Schminke ones that I was talking about, which is out in the living room. Those are really saturated and they're really nice. So when I'm doing sort of a finished illustration, I might go in and use those, you know. And then sometimes there's parts of the illustration, like maybe the natural parts, like tree trunks and stuff like that, where I'm like, I don't want them, I want them kind of dulled down. So I might go to a paint that's not as pigment rich and as good, because it's just naturally going to be a little less saturated and a little more muted. And I'm going to get to that muted palette a little easier. Does that make sense? Okay, so what I'm saying is like make sure that these guys, you got it, the light of this, I'm not sharing my screen, right? The light of this, this has to be supported, that is surrounded by like night light or dark or bluish light. And then just like we're looking at that one, just like this, where it's supporting this, all this blue and everything around is supporting this warmth. It's really pushing it.
Okay.
And then if you notice, it goes like from an orangey spilled color out of the fire, and it starts to go purple and into here, because there's still some warmth in purple. So it's a nice transition color. And then I could go a little bluer on the outskirts of that, and it'll go warm, still some warmth, purple, cool, and then into blue where it's really cool. But it's a nice sort of spectrum shift. Does that make sense?
It does.
Same thing here, sort of. It's a small one, but you know, this is reflecting in the front of him right there. You know, this was a wet into wet wash. You know, these clouds were all done with an airbrush, but that's different. So on and so forth, right?
Right. I had a question about the shadows and the trees in the background.
Yeah.
So if you can kind of see the shadows beyond the lantern of the trees, I kind of made them diagonal and down because I kind of wanted something linear back there. So is that even possible, or is the lantern too bright and the shadow will be behind the trees?
There's a couple things I might try with that. I might try, yeah, I don't know if I get too complicated with the ground shadows. I think I'd more want to concentrate on that just being a background thing.
Okay. All right.
And then I'd probably put the trees that are way back there as just nice silhouettes, like a darker value of the same blue that's back there maybe.
All right.
where I'd work some of that value into my final drawing and you know, wash my color over it, and it's going to do half the work for me right off the bat.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Oh, and then
I think these are pretty good.
good. On my watercolor pans, it was a brand new set, so I took all the plastics off and threw them away. And then so now I don't know the color. I have to like kind of match to see what colors I have. There's like a number on the pans, but I threw away the names of the colors, so now I got to go back and figure all that out.
Is there a strip, like, is there a strip in between the two? What kind of watercolor pan is it, or set is it?
It's like a travel set. Let me see the brand. It's Winsor Newton.
Oh, okay.
I guess I can go on the website and see what colors are in there, but yeah, I kind of messed up with that. I didn't realize.
Well, sometimes what you can also do, and I don't know how this thing's set up, but sometimes they have a, God damn it. So here's the set. Here's my colors on either side, right?
Yeah.
So here's my pans. And then I might put a strip of paper right in here, and then take a swatch from each thing and just put the swatch right there. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, but I was figuring once I figured out which color was which, I would probably have to write it underneath because this is so tiny.
It's write it too. It's nice to have. It's nice to have, and then you. So it's pans, right? You can move the pans around, right?
Yeah.
One thing that I do, and probably everybody does, is I organize them the way that makes sense to me. I don't care how the manufacturer thought that should be organized. I organize them the way I want them organized. That helps me, like putting my cobalt right next to and I have that, or like I do this. I like to have the ultramarine, the burnt sienna, and the yellow ochre all sitting next together, and white. And we don't have white here, but in a normal palette. Because the way I mix, that makes sense. And I like my, and then everything else is, you know, sort of going through the spectrum. So, you know.
What were those three colors you mentioned? Ultramarine and what else?
I like ultramarine, yellow ochre, and burnt sienna off by themselves.
Okay.
I mix a lot of base colors with those colors.
All right.
And then it goes to like maybe my cobalt blue or whatever I'm using for a cool blue. And then that can shift to green, that can shift to yellow, that can shift to warm, you know, through the color spectrum basically. But it should just be, you know, and then I have my warm and cool, warm and cool, warm and cool, warm and cool sitting next to each other. Yeah, you can put a strip in the middle of it. You should be able to find a chart for what that paint is in that particular set, right?
Yeah, I think I have to go online and look to see what it contained. It was
Yeah.
Look.
Yeah.
The chart, yeah, the chart they put in the case that has all their colors, you know, like 50 colors or something. And this is a 12 pack.
Okay. It's not a bad idea though to put that strip in the middle of your things and just put a little swatch of each color, because like on my Schminke set, there's like 4 colors in there or groups of colors in there where in certain light, I can't tell what color they are. I can't tell what blue it is. They just all look like black.
Oh, okay.
Like if I'm painting in a jazz club or something like that with that palette, other than knowing placement wise where those colors are, I can't tell. Sometimes I can't even tell, like in this room, I can't even tell. They're just so dark and close to each other. They're not close to each other at all once I put them on paper. Like that phthalo doesn't look anything like ultramarine or cobalt or whatever. They look completely different once I get them on paper, but in the pan, they look like, they just all look like black basically, or a really dark blue. Okay, does that make sense?
It does, thank you.
All right, you guys, what else? Let me see if I've gone through everybody's stuff.
You haven't done mine yet.
Who is that?
It's Megan.
Oh, Megan, okay. There was someone I was going to tell you, and I can't remember what it was. Oh, okay. Shit, what was that I was going to tell you? Ooh, nice. Nice.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
I'm excited. I think this one. Okay, which one are you thinking?
I was thinking the one on the bottom right, the last one.
Yeah. So you can do the same thing. Have you done watercolor before?
Yeah, I do a lot of watercolors.
Okay, good. I mean, you're doing that mass thing we just talked about with the tree here, right?
Yeah.
And then, I'd push that same thing we just talked about where maybe there's a little ripple over it somewhere, right?
Yeah, I was gonna
Just
do that.
nothing. Just hardly anything. Just a little ripple to break up that reflection, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Me likey. Now here, what are you thinking?
I was also thinking on doing the bottom, the last one.
This one here?
Wait, sorry, where? I don't see where you're.
Hang on. Right here?
Yes, that one.
Well, I like that warm light over here, and then it goes over to this cool shadow.
Yeah, I was thinking it's like really early morning or something, like right before dawn, or
Okay,
right
yeah, I like that.
as dawn, or during dawn.
Now, one thing I might do, what color is this water creature?
I was thinking she'd be kind of blues, like a darker blue on her back, and then it kind of fades to a softer, lighter blue. But I'm not exactly sure what tone of blue.
One thing I would definitely do with that, and you're probably already thinking this, it's just like I was talking about how I flooded the tree trunk in that video with like various colors and things.
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely, obviously, do some of that in here. And it sounds like you're already thinking about that with, I'm going from this to this. I mean, I'd also think about and you're already doing it here and stuff, but just modulate that wash as you put it in wet into wet, if that's how you're going to do it, correct?
Yeah.
And then I'd really get cool with because there's going to be some water specularity on that creature, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, that how you handle that, because you don't want to overdo that, but it is, and also, is it getting like a I don't know what color it would be. Hang on. You can see my screen, right?
Yes, I can see your screen.
So I'm going to knock back this opacity. Does it get a nice little reflection over the body here? Maybe it's also a color that's reflective of this other side. Is there maybe, just to vary it, is there any green over on this side maybe? Hang on. Is there anything over here where I can vary that a little bit?
Okay.
Really subtly. And then maybe in here, maybe then I go back to this, if there is. And you'd have to work it out, but these are catching a little bit of that light over here on the edges of the scales. So I could get a little of that different color dancing in there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And then I could go to a little bit of specularity just here and there. It's going to get some over here probably.
Uh-huh.
Just little things like that, okay? Because wherever you're at with your, experience with this, I want you up in your game.
Okay.
I mean, that's the goal to me. If I get somebody like you who has some experience with this, then I want you up in your game.
Got it.
There's something nice too, though, about this. I mean, it really depends on how you handle it. Like if I'm going to do this where there's a very light reflection out here, I'd make sure that this edge is super designed where it transitions really beautifully.
Okay.
You know, and then this can be, I think is what you're thinking, is that this is sort of light out here. Let me switch to this. Light out here, and then you're sort of getting this reflected shape into the water, and then you can put some, just like we did with the tree, put some reflections over that, you know, very designed, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because there's a lot of nice things. There's also like really cool things you can do with like this. Let me find one. By the way, here's a nice example of just background silhouetted tree shape. See that?
Uh-huh. Yeah, that looks really cool.
Yeah. This guy, he's really good at simplicity. Like making very complex things simple. Look. It's probably going to be a tiny picture. I hate it when they do that. Hang on. Damn it, hang on. Here.
Okay.
You know, where this stuff starts to go underwater, it's just obviously just a shift in color, really, right?
Mm-hmm.
Shit, where'd my window go? A lot of little just dry brush. Then putting this blue over the top of this, he's doing the same. And then look at this blue right here, how it cuts the water. You see that?
Yeah.
So he washed in this, you can tell this is oil, but he washed this in under here. He just washed it in, sort of like what we're doing with watercolor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, then instead of just putting the water ripples, he put that blue over the top of it, and then he put the blue right there. What does it do? It sits on top of that reflection, that warm reflection underneath, right? Because what all this is reflecting all this, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes in that shallower water, so it's why I'm saying this is that if you have an animal like that that's coming out of deeper water, the deeper water is usually going to be a little bluer or greenish or whatever it is, right? Then as it gets towards the shore, it turns into this brownish color. Why? Because you're seeing the floor of the pond. It's only this deep now, right? Or this deep or whatever, right?
Yeah, I was trying to do that in my earlier color comp.
Yeah, so if you want to get that kind of thing, that's how you do it. You just wanted to transition to more of a little brownish, you know, because now I'm seeing the dirt on the bottom. It's not brown. It's like this, where this stuff is getting warmed up, but not going to crazy brown, right? And by the way, this is like, look, he's got a little bit of green in here, and, you know, and just shifts it. And he does a lot of this. Like, you know, anybody has their little things they do. And Frank Serrano does that a lot. He does these foreground things where he brings it in really shallow. Ooh, look at that. Let me see if I can find it, because he does it all the time, actually. So he simplifies this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, he's really good at that, man. He's great at that. He's got a gallery up on Bishop, by the way. There he's doing it again. Only now he put some rocks down there, right? And in this case, now why is it getting greenish? Because the rocks would have a green algae all over them probably, right? Or maybe it's a little deep. This has got rocks in the bottom, so it's a little different, right? So it's reflecting the color of the water probably a little more. Whereas brown is a little different. It's going to intermingle and go a little brownish. They might have algae on them. It might just be the water's green, and these are very light value rocks, and they're just reflecting the green. You're seeing it through the green, just like you see this, mountains through a blue atmosphere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's all like weirdly like about logic after you sort of get the hang of it. Here he is again. Look at that beautiful aqua green back there. And then as it comes into the foreground, it turns into this ochre brownish color. And then there's just a couple of shapes under there, and that's it, right?
Yeah.
On and on and on. Why does he only have new works? That's weird. Look at the color in these things, man. Another one. Look, he's doing the same thing here. He's pulling that light value right there over this stuff back here, which is doing what? Reflecting straight into the pond, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is more still water. If it wasn't still water, there'd be more surface more surface disruption. If it's flowing water, you're not going to get as much of this reflective quality of the trees into it because that water's moving, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So in my brain, I always go, once you and it's part of the reason I wanted to do this class, is that once you start thinking about this stuff and understanding how things work and all that kind of stuff, it makes it a lot easier to figure things out and pull that into your design solution, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think you got a good handle on it. And then right here, where it breaks the surface, you might be able to get maybe that's where you're right there. Sometimes it'll get a little lighter, and then sometimes you can carry that out as your ripple, as he's moving through the water, right?
Okay.
I would design the hell out of that ripple. Yeah?
Yeah.
And I know I had an example of that, but I can't remember who it was. I can't remember who it was. Okay. These look great.
Thank you.
What's your major?
I have absolutely.
You cut out.
I'm sorry. I have absolutely no idea.
Really? How long have you been at Fullerton?
I think 2 years. Wait, no.
So you just like.
Yeah, pretty much. But I'm taking a lot of my general ed classes as well.
Good. Get rid of those. What do you like from an artistic perspective?
Well, I really like doing traditional art. My favorite is probably watercolors, but I also like oils as well.
You like?
I've taken.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I've taken a couple of the painting classes at Fullerton College.
Did you get anything out of that?
Yeah, some, not super much.
That's another reason why I wanted this class. I wanted a hardcore paint handling class. Right?
Yeah.
So my thing is with painting. Let's say you want to be a fine art painter. I think it's better to go into a strong understanding of illustration and things like that. Sort of what we're doing here. Because what that's teaching you is paint handling technique, design, knowing your materials, having an actual skill set. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And also, okay, then you can go in and go, I don't know, in 2 years you might go, I want to do abstract work. Well, guess what? All this stuff is still going to help you in your abstract work. You're going to be a better painter because you're going to understand surface, you're going to understand brushwork, you're going to understand texture, you're going to understand form, even if it's a non-representational thing. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Or you might go, I want to start sculpting, and all of a sudden you'll realize, like, wow, I've been doing all this stuff. I can actually kind of sculpt a little bit. Why? Because you've been drawing so much and painting so much. You understand form, okay? What I don't agree with is like not giving, and there's a lot of programs like CalArts Fine Art Program. They're not teaching that stuff. They're going right in and going, yeah, go to whatever weird thing you want to do or trippy thing you want to do. There's nothing wrong with that. I like all that stuff. But then you don't have any foundation under it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And that to me is just, that's just scary to me, because I always looked at it like and went, well, if you don't have that background, and let's say you're doing a lot of abstract work or whatever, and then you're not probably, I've said this before, but you're probably not going to be the same artist 5 years from now that you are now, right? So if you've got strong technique under you and foundation under you, you can shift gears in your career all over the place. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So that's why I'm so big on this stuff. But paint handling and knowing your materials, we'll get more into that as we go into acrylic and stuff. But even here, you know, knowing how to handle your materials and what technique to use for what and all that kind of stuff, okay?
Okay.
And then you go off and do whatever the hell you want. But kind of try and figure it out. I mean, do you like book illustration? Like, what got you where you dug this kind of stuff?
Well, I read a lot, and I always love it when I find a good book cover that really represents the book. So I've just always been interested in really portraying the characters like how the book portrayed them. So
that's illustrations
would be really awesome.
That's illustration, straight up, right?
Yeah.
And then who do you like as illustrators?
I don't really have a lot off the top of my head, but Joy Ang, I believe is her name. Her art is really cool.
Joy Ang.
I think it's spelled with 2 A's, but I'm not entirely sure. But she does a lot of cool brushwork, and I really like the color palettes that she chooses.
Is it one? Oh, it's, oh, okay. Is it this? Is this her? Oh, you can't see my screen, huh?
No, I can't.
Hang on, sorry. It's Camille's fault. Oops. Is this her?
Yes.
Okay. That all looks digital, correct? Is it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she mostly does digital stuff.
Yeah,
You can see when you get on and off, right? So you know you can mark your points for not being there.
Okay, I get it. So this is her too, right?
Yes.
Okay, I get it. This is more, it looks like visual development work to me.
Okay.
Is that what this is? What is, I don't know, maybe not. This doesn't actually.
I'm pretty sure those are for a book series that she did the covers for.
Yeah, they might be. And you like her color palette and stuff?
Yeah. I'm more of a, I like using more earthy tones, and she uses more brighter colors, but I like the brush strokes that she's able to capture.
Sure. Yeah, let's start expanding out. Start showing me what it is you like. I mean, all you guys, I want you guys doing that, okay?
Okay.
It helps me kind of, as we move forward, like focus in a little bit. Because like I said, after this thing, we'll do a acrylic thing. And we're not going to spend as much time on the front end. We're just going to go into paint now. Other than just figuring out what your color comps and stuff. And by the way, it's another nice way to build clouds is sort of puffy, you know. I like these colors. I think everybody does. Everybody rips this off, including me. This one. That's not bad. You know, these kind of clouds with all these pinks and all these warm colors in it and all that kind of stuff. It's always hard to find a good scan of it. This looks pretty good. Okay. I love getting all these pinks and yellows and ochres and things in there. Okay. Okay, so if I looked at everybody?
You didn't look at my transfer thing onto the watercolor paper.
Oh, let me see.
I don't think you went over mine either.
So I have a question about my transfer. I put a layer of the ochre down, just a really light layer, and it really warped a ton. It kind of flattened out afterwards, but
What do you have here? What are these pin things?
they're just push pins.
That's
What, sorry?
that's probably why.
Okay.
Did it flatten back out?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. So when you stretch your paper, you guys, you know how you stretch it and it goes super flat and nice and unwarped, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you start washing colors back into it, it'll warp again, but then it'll go flat again when it dries.
Okay, got it.
As long as it's going back to flat after it dries, you're fine. But it looks like you set it up all good. What kind of pencil are you using?
I use that terracotta pencil that you recommend.
Do you like it?
Yeah, it's really nice. It's so soft.
Yeah, I love that, you know. And it's a nice color. Like, again, if you look in the video that I put up, it starts to marry the color really nicely.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, as long as it's going back to flat, you're fine.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Because what you want at the end of the day is when you, and I usually bring one out in class, you get these really flat, it's almost like an illustration board, these just really beautifully flat when you cut it out. You know, nice finished thing. The only thing that you got to do is go, okay, I'm not going to screw this anymore once you cut it out, because you know, then it's off the board and you know, then it can work, right? But as long as you got it stapled down or whatever, it should be fine, right?
Okay.
Order of the North Star, by the way, look. See that, Susie?
Wow, yeah, I do. Where'd you get that?
I'm a member of the Order of the North Star.
Duh.
Actually, I made a bunch of them to give to students and stuff, and now we're off campus.
Very cool. Yeah, darn it.
Yeah. So I got a whole closet full of them right now. And I'll give them to people, you know.
Let's have a pizza party.
Yeah, we can do that. Because that's not a school sanctioned thing, so we could do that. I'm dying to get out and paint right now, man. All right, who was saying I didn't look at their stuff?
Me, Lily.
Oops, wait a minute.
Lily.
Lily. Oh, here it is. Wait a minute. What happened? Where'd it go? Oh, wait, hang on, I'm in the wrong folder. Oh, was it a panda thing?
Yeah, that one.
Okay, so you're just gonna go with graphite. It went down flat and everything on you?
Yeah, I had to go over it twice. Yeah.
But it's flat, right? The one thing go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
On the board?
Yeah.
It actually did bend.
Am I seeing, what is all this? Go ahead.
It bent, but I stapled it onto plywood afterwards, so it's not bending right now.
And you did that while it was wet, right?
The first time I stapled it onto the foam board, it was wet. Yeah.
Okay. And then what's all this gray over here around the border?
I think it just got dirty with the graphite.
Clean that up. Like the whole point of having a clean border is a nice presentation, right?
Right.
So go in with your kneaded eraser and lift that out and clean it up. And then you're going to get a tape around it, right?
Yeah, I'll do that today.
Okay. Okay, so what are you asking me? If it's okay or whatever?
Yeah, I just wanted to, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it looks like you're okay. Just clean up those borders. There was a guy at Art Center, I always say this, and at Art Center, we'd always have to present our stuff like that, really clean border. And there was a guy in there, and I don't know how this guy got away with doing this kind of crap all through school. And maybe they talked to him offline, I don't know. But I don't know what his problem was, but he put his stuff up on the wall, and that clean white border would have all these fingerprints and crap all over it. And it was really annoying because you're like, why is that? You shouldn't tolerate that. But it was like 8th term, and we had this guy named Jim Salvati, who's a really good illustrator. 8th term means you're about to go out the door, and Jim Salvati and anyway, he put up his thing, and he goes, what is this? You know, and it was all these dirty borders. I never understood his thinking in that. And he goes, I'm not even going to crit this. This is a piece of crap. Like, you clearly don't care about it. And here's the other thing. I want to fail you, and you're not going to graduate unless you get your act together here. And he said the same thing. He goes, I don't know how you got this far in this school with this kind of behavior. He goes, but it ain't flying in my class. I'm going to fail you. And like 2 teachers did that at the same time. Right? And I never could figure it out. It's like, okay, when you peel the tape off, why would you go back and put fingerprints all over it? You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Where'd you go?
Yes.
Okay. You always want a clean presentation. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So just clean up the borders and all that kind of stuff. Have you done your value comps and your color comps yet?
No, I thought we just had to transfer it.
No, that's fine.
I'm gonna work on.
But just make sure you guys, all you guys, that you do that before you actually go to start to paint. Okay, you don't want to improvise that yet. You know, later on maybe you can improvise a little bit. We're done right now. Does that make sense? So now I did get everybody, right?
Actually, you forgot. Wait, are you saying you did everyone's or?
Yeah.
Oh, actually, you forgot mine.
Oh, I see.
There we go.
Get rid of this line in the middle. Why is that there?
I was supposed to like separate the rooms, but
I see. But yeah, it's not reading that way. If you're gonna do that, you got to give me something that tells me that.
Yeah.
Like go look at one of those old films, because they do it in old films sometimes. Where I can see one in my head, but I can't remember what it was. You know, well, they have the camera move. It's like an apartment building. The guy's down getting ready for his date or something. And then they pan the camera up, and the girl's getting ready for the date, and the one above, and you see these, you know, or just look at a cross section or something, and just get something if you're going to do that tells me that, right?
Okay, yeah, I get it now. Yeah.
And I think this value, like this value right here, where's that coming from right there? This sort of radiating value, right here.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's supposed to be like the light coming into the room.
Yeah, I do that with paint. I mean, that'll be okay. It'll just sink under your paint. It's fine.
Yeah.
And you can put a little bit of value in here. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that either, because it'll kind of kickstart you.
Yeah, and I tried to make the lines darker, like where it's away from the light.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, go. Have you done your color comps?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Well, yeah, I get, you know, but get onto your color comps now, right?
Yeah.
Just print out little versions of it, just like Megan's. and have at it. Make sure you got a plan. Everybody, make sure you got a plan before you go in. By the way, like Susie, like you were saying, you know, I'm terrified of putting anything on there. If you have a plan, like a pretty solid plan, I think it takes away some of that. Does that make sense?
Okay.
I think having a plan takes away because you know how to attack it. I think part of the problem with and part of it's just, you know, you're new to it or whatever. But I think part of that is that you just go, well, how the hell do I start this? And if you have a plan, you kind of go, okay, I'll start with the sky. I know this is just a simple wash. And I always go in and start with the simplest things. Because even after I'm like this one I've got sitting on the table out there that I got to go finish, I sort of look at it and go, what's the most obvious thing I need to do? I need to darken the sky up there. Okay, start there. And it just breaks the ice again. I have to keep breaking the ice. And it helps me if I just look at it and go, what's the simplest thing that I can start this with? Because as soon as I start it, then I'm cool. I'm off and running. And then all that anxiety and stuff starts to go away and everything. Always keep a towel, like I said, in this hand. If you don't like something, lift it out, right? And don't worry about lifting it out every little bit, because some of that even goes underneath your washes and starts making some shapes and can actually make some cool stuff, okay? I think what you have to not do with painting, and especially with watercolor, don't get all, you only control it so much, okay? I don't think you want to over control watercolor. I don't think you want to over control anything. And hopefully you'll start, hopefully you're already starting to see this, like how I'm just using washes all the time. Do you guys see that? Just using like different washes all the time. Just like the moon thing, all this stuff. Wet into wet wash, but leave the middle a little out. Dry brush. Let this dry and then put another wash over it. Like there's not a lot of, that's what I like about watercoloring. Why we start with it is it's fairly straightforward. There's not a lot of, hey, put this medium in it. I mean, you can put gum arabic in it. You can do a lot of things, and that's fine. But that you can start going down that. And maybe we'll talk a little bit about it. But you just don't tend to do that unless you're going for something very specific. A friend of mine just sent me a thing. Actually, I don't know where it is. Somebody, she goes, hey, have you ever tried gum arabic? And I have some actually somewhere around here. And it'll do certain kind of thing. And gum arabic binder that's in watercolor. Okay, so you can buy it in liquid and you can add it to your paint. And it just, what all these things do, and we'll start talking about this more with as we move forward, especially with acrylic. Acrylic, you can buy 50 different mediums for. Okay, you can buy gloss medium, matte medium, extender, which just extends the paint out. Pour medium, which just makes it really thin, where you can just pour it, like drip it and pour it into pools. It's got beads you can get, these like weird, you can get modeling paste that'll make it super fat and thick. And there's all these things you can do with it, right? And same thing with oil, you can use liquid. You can make, I used to mix my own mediums. You can use stand oil. You can use, you can do this. You can get oleopasto. You can get Galkid, all these different things, and all that does is it just makes the paint lay down differently mostly. Does that make sense? So either thins it out, or makes it thicker, or makes it dry faster, or makes it whatever. Cobalt makes it, or a cobalt dryer, I think it is, makes it dry faster. Some people will take a little bit of Naples yellow or a little bit of yellow and mix it into their white pile of paint. That way the white is always adding a little bit of, because you're going to add that to most of the colors, so it's going to add that warmth throughout your painting. And it's imperceptible. Like if you looked at their palette, you're not really even going to notice. They just mix it in there. It's the same thing as what I just said with kissing the paper with yellow ochre, right? It's the same thing. So they're making sure that there's like everywhere there's white, it's not just white, because if it's like super pure white all the time, it's going to look chalky. Does that make sense? So like whenever I put a specular highlight, usually I mix, depending on the light, but I usually mix just a little bit of yellow in it. It's imperceptible, but now it's, and also like a lot of these whites, like titanium and things like that, will go a little blue, right? So you got to, and then you got to know the nature of your colors that you're using. So when we get to acrylic, it'll get a little easier to do it because it's an opaque medium, but you can take your colors and add white to them and put a swatch, and it'll really reveal to you what those colors actually are. Because you got to start learning, like, oh, when I do CAD is actually more of a purple, right? There's blue in it. So when I add that white to it, all of a sudden I'll see it. I'll see the nature of the color. And also when I take that CAD red medium or whatever, and I put it next to like Grumbacher red, you're really going to see it. All of a sudden you're going to go, whoa, that CAD is super cool, right? Or alizarin crimson next to, again, like a Grumbacher red or something. Mm-hmm. You're going to see it next to each other because everything's relative, okay? If I put lemon yellow next to CAD red medium or a CAD yellow medium, it looks green, okay? Because the colors push each other. So everything's relative to itself next to each other. Does that make sense? It's just like value. That value matters next to this value. Otherwise, it doesn't really have a whole lot of meaning. Does that make sense?
So is that why you said you put your warm and cool yellows or blues next to each other on your palette?
Yeah, so they're, I don't even know if I did it here. Yeah. Oops. This one's a little haphazard, but, you know, it's cool, warm, cool, warm. This is off by itself. These are off by itself because I'm playing with them. Warm, cool, burnt sienna. So there's my ultramarine, burnt sienna, yellow ochre. I forgot, that's I think a black or something. Warm, cool, warm, cool, warm, cool, warm. And then this is a phthalo, which I consider like a, and this is phthalo green. I don't use those that much. But yeah, the warms and cools are set. And then look at all the green in this, in that yellow, that lemon yellow. Because it kind of wants to go green because it kind of has a green cast to it anyway. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Is a Hansa yellow close to a lemon yellow?
As long as it's on the cool side, I think it is. I can't remember.
So I don't have lemon yellow. I just have Hansa.
Well, does it have like a greenish? Does it have like a greenish cast to it?
I think so. It's different. It's much different than the CAD yellow.
Yeah, if you put it next to the CAD yellow, you'll probably see it. I think Hansa is green. I think it is cool. I think. How do I do this?
I could probably Google it.
Completely spaced it. Oh, here it is.
The label looks that way too.
I'm not sharing my screen anymore, right?
Right, it's you.
Okay. You said that so derisively.
It's just you again.
Just you.
Yeah, they're very different. One looks, can you tell? No.
Yeah, I can tell. Yeah, it looks like, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Look at them next to each other.
Yeah.
I don't expect everybody to go out and buy a big full palette or whatever. I get it. But I just want you to be aware of that, okay? I think you have to have ultramarine blue on your palette, though. I think you have to have burnt sienna. I mean, I shouldn't say have to. It's up to you. But you do want to have a palette that makes some sort of sense, right? And I know when you're first starting, that's why I'm mentioning it, is like I do a split primary thing, warm and cool thing, and I try and keep my palette fairly small. My core palette doesn't have phthalo blue, doesn't have phthalo green, really doesn't have brilliant orange or dioxazine purple. But now I allow myself that luxury because it's still a fairly small palette. And it's like, well, it speeds things up, especially if I'm out painting like on location or whatever, to be able to just go, you know, and by the way, those are colors that I've chosen that work well for me. Like that dioxazine works really well for me for certain things. I can even mix a nice green out of the dioxazine with a lot of opaque colors. I can flood it with CAD yellow and it picks up the blue in there and it starts to give me a really dark, but then there's red in there. So it's also canceling it in a weird way, right? So it'll give me like a really nice starting point for like a dark value green. Because greens are always considered the hardest thing to mix, okay? And then they can be a little bit tricky. Temperature wise and all that kind of stuff, right? Because when you mix a green, you don't want to mix, at least in most cases, you don't want to mix the same green through the entire environment, because the only thing that usually separates the greens is the temperature, right? Like up here, you'll have a pine tree, a very warm pine tree, and then sitting right next to it is a pine tree that's almost blue, right? And then next to that is like something that's still warm, but not as warm as the other one. It's a cooler green, but the one next to it is really blue, and so on and so forth. And all these things like start to separate that way. Because if you have a whole bunch of trees all together that are all massed together, the only way you're going to be able to separate them is by the temperature and everything of the greens, you know. And it can be really subtle. You don't have to go overboard with it. But you do want to separate them if they need to be separated. Now, if you're just doing a whole line of silhouetted, that's a silhouetted idea, you know. And again, if I'm going to do that tree line, I'm probably going to wet the whole thing in and wash in my colors and let them sort of intermingle. And then I'll go in and start to sort of refine it a little bit. Does that make sense? I do a lot of wet into wet, right? And probably everybody does. Okay, so I've gone through everybody's now, right? Okay. Questions? Everybody's good?
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm fine too.
Everybody's confident? Susie?
I try to be confident.
Well, I'd like to ask you a question, but offline, because I don't want to keep this class any longer.
You can ask.
I don't want to delay it. No, I'd rather just ask you. Well, I could send an email.
No, just,
but I do have.
Actually, just stick around, and everybody goes out and talk to you.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions, you guys?
We're just painting it, right? For homework.
Yeah, let's get started. And then, by the way, if you hit a wall and you go, crap, I don't know what to do here. I'm gonna have a couple meetings this week. I'll probably have one tomorrow, so you can jump into those and we can talk about it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
Like at this point, I want everybody to go out and just start working. Yeah. By the way, you're all chipped. I have everybody in this class chipped, so I know when you're working.
Joke's on you. Bill Gates already did that.
Well, I got the technology from Bill.
Mike,
T-shirts.
Mike, do you have a goal that you want us to be at by next week?
I'd like to have it as much as if you're, if everything is going smooth, at least have it. I mean, you can take it as far as you're comfortable with. I'd like to have the whole thing covered like I did in that video up to that point.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right, guys, I'm gonna let everybody go. Susie, you hang around.
Okay, thanks.
All right, see you guys next time.
All right, man.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye.